Okay, so let's be real for a sec. You know, speaking English, especially when you're not 100% comfortable, can be like walking a tightrope.
Yeah.
You know, like all eyes are on you,
Yeah.
judging every word, every like slip up.
Right.
Well, you're not alone in that feeling at all.
Right.
You've sent us a bunch of really interesting material about dealing with these English-speaking jitters. And I'm kind of nervous just thinking about all the stuff I need to work on myself.
Well, what's interesting is the sources really emphasize one thing, and it's that this fear is way more common than you might think. It's not just you, it's practically universal, even for people who've been speaking English for years.
It is a bit of a relief, actually. I guess just knowing that everyone stumbles a little makes me feel a little less like I'm the only one with stage fright.
Right.
But why is it so common, you think?
Yeah, the sources dive into that, and it's a mix of things. Obviously, there's the fear of making mistakes or sounding silly, being judged. It's natural to want to be seen as competent, right? But sometimes that desire can totally backfire and make us freeze up.
Oh, tell me about it. I've definitely had those moments where I know what I want to say, but the words just won't come out. It's like my brain short circuits.
Yeah, and that often comes down to a lack of practice. It's like any skill, if you don't use it regularly, you get rusty. The sources point out it's not just about knowing the grammar rules or having a massive vocabulary. It's about getting comfortable with the flow of the language, the rhythm, all those subtle things that make it sound natural.
So it's kind of like learning to dance. You can know all the steps, but if you don't practice, you'll trip over your own feet when the music starts.
Perfect analogy.
Right.
And then on top of that, we tend to pile on the pressure by aiming for perfection.
Yeah.
We want to sound exactly like a native speaker, which, let's face it, can be a pretty daunting goal when you're starting out.
Yeah, that's like trying to win a marathon when you've just started jogging. The sources mentioned something about reframing our mindset, though.
Yeah.
What exactly does that mean?
So it's about shifting our focus from being perfect to simply communicating. Instead of obsessing over every little mistake, we need to remember that the goal is to get our message across to connect with the other person. It's like the difference between trying to perform a flawless piano piece and just jamming with friends. The goal is different, and so is the pressure.
That's such a good point. It's not about sounding like a textbook. It's about having an actual conversation.
Exactly.
Speaking of which, one thing that really resonated with me from the material is this idea of negative self-talk.
Yeah.
Those little voices in your head that whisper, you're going to mess this up, or they're going to think you're an idiot.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much power those thoughts can have.
Absolutely. It's a classic example of how our thoughts can directly affect our emotions and our behavior. Those negative thoughts trigger anxiety, which then makes us much more likely to stumble or freeze up. The sources suggest replacing those negative thoughts with positive affirmations, basically talking to yourself in a more encouraging way.
So instead of saying, I'm going to sound so stupid, you could say something like, I'm learning and getting better with every conversation.
Exactly.
Kind of like giving yourself a pep talk, right?
Exactly. It might seem a little cheesy at first, but trust me, it works. It's about retraining your brain to focus on the positive, on your progress, rather than your perceived shortcomings.
Okay, so we've laid out some of the reasons why speaking English can be so nerve-wracking. But how do we actually start tackling these nerves? The sources mention the importance of preparation and practice, but what does that actually look like?
Well, they offer some really practical advice here. One suggestion is to practice common phrases for everyday situations. Think about the things you say all the time, like introducing yourself, ordering food, asking for directions. Having those phrases ready to go can be a real confidence booster, especially when you're feeling a bit anxious. It's like having a script for those initial interactions.
Like having those cheat sheet notes hidden in your palm during a presentation.
Yeah.
Okay, but even with practice, I still get those sudden waves of panic, like right before a job interview or when I have to give a presentation.
Yeah.
My heart starts racing, palms get sweaty. It's awful.
Yeah, the source material calls that the fight or flight response. It's your body's natural reaction to stress, but it can definitely make speaking English feel like this high-pressure situation. They do have some interesting techniques for calming those nerves, though.
Okay, tell me everything, because honestly, those physical symptoms are the worst. It's like my body's betraying me.
Well, one technique they highlight is deep breathing, but not just any kind of deep breathing. They recommend a specific pattern: breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4, and exhale for 4.
I've tried deep breathing before, but never with specific counts. What's so special about that?
It's about slowing down your heart rate and regulating your breathing. When you're anxious, you tend to take these short, shallow breaths, which only makes the anxiety worse. This technique helps to kind of break that cycle and bring a sense of calm.
Okay, I'm going to try that next time I'm feeling panicky. What about those other physical symptoms like sweaty palms and shaky hands? Is there anything I can do about those?
Well, believe it or not, your posture and facial expressions can actually make a difference. Standing tall, maintaining good posture, even smiling, can actually trick your brain into feeling more confident.
Really?
It's like you're projecting this image of self-assurance, even if you're a nervous wreck inside.
So it's kind of like fake it till you make it?
Exactly.
I can see how that might work.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look confident, maybe you'll start to feel more confident too.
Exactly. And it's not just about looking confident, it's about sounding confident too. They suggest speaking slowly and clearly pausing when needed to gather your thoughts.
See, that's something I struggle with. I tend to rush when I'm nervous, and then I end up stumbling over my words and just feeling even more flustered.
It's a common reaction. But remember, taking your time is perfectly acceptable. It shows that you're thoughtful and that you care about communicating clearly.
That's a good point. It's not a race. The sources also mention this idea of shifting the focus away from yourself. How does that help with nervousness?
Well, when we're nervous, we tend to become hyper-aware of ourselves, how we sound, how we look, what other people might be thinking of us. And that just creates this cycle of anxiety. Instead of dwelling on our own nervousness, they suggest actively engaging with the listener.
So it's about turning our attention outward instead of inward.
Yeah.
Like focusing on the other person and what they're saying.
Precisely. Listen attentively to what they're saying. Respond naturally. Ask questions to show that you're genuinely interested in the conversation.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
If you're focused on the other person, you're less likely to be trapped in your own head obsessing over your, performance.
Exactly. Plus, asking questions has this double benefit.
Right.
It not only makes the other person feel valued, but it also takes the pressure off of you to be the constant center of attention.
It's like turning the spotlight around.
Yeah.
So we've talked about practice, deep breathing posture, focusing on the listener. It's a lot to remember. Any other tips for dealing with those in the moment? Jitters, those times when you suddenly feel that wave of panic wash over you?
Yeah, the source material has a few clever tricks for that. One of the simplest but surprisingly effective tips is to pause if you forget a word. Instead of panicking and getting flustered, take a moment to gather your thoughts.
Easier said than done. My mind always goes blank in those moments.
I know, it's tough. But you can use filler phrases like, let me think for a moment, or how can I best explain this to avoid those awkward silences?
Oh, those are good. I always feel so self-conscious about pausing, but those phrases make it sound totally natural.
Exactly. It's a way to acknowledge the pause without making it seem like a mistake. And honestly, most people won't even notice, especially if you're engaging them with eye contact and showing that you're thinking.
What about humor? Can that help with nervousness?
Absolutely. The sources is just using humor to kind of diffuse tension and make yourself feel more relaxed. If you make a mistake, just laugh it off. It shows that you're not taking yourself too seriously.
I love that I've always admired people who can laugh at themselves. It makes them seem so much more approachable and relatable.
Exactly. It breaks down barriers and creates a more relaxed atmosphere for everyone. And finally, they recommend something called visualization techniques.
Visualization. Is that like picturing yourself giving a flawless presentation, like you're some kind of English-speaking superhero?
It's similar, but it's more about imagining yourself having a successful and confident conversation before you even start speaking. It's a way of mentally preparing yourself for a positive outcome.
So it's like creating a mental movie where you're the star and you're nailing it.
Exactly. And the more detailed you can make this visualization, the more powerful it becomes. Imagine the setting, the people you're talking to, even how you feel in that moment of confidence.
Wow, it's like planting a seed of success in your mind. I'm definitely going to give this a try. But even with all this mental preparation, I still think practice is key, right?
Absolutely. Practice is essential, but the sources go beyond just general practice. They highlight a few specific types that are particularly helpful for overcoming nervousness.
Okay, tell me more. I'm always up for trying new techniques. What are they?
One technique is called shadowing.
Shadowing. I've never heard of that. What is it?
It involves listening to a recording of a native English speaker and trying to imitate their pronunciation, intonation, and rhythm as closely as possible.
So it's like you're their shadow, echoing their every word.
Precisely. It might feel a bit strange at first, but it's incredibly effective for improving your fluency and pronunciation.
But how does shadowing help with nervousness?
It trains your mouth and your brain to produce the sounds of English more naturally. The more you practice, the less you'll have to think about the mechanics of speaking and the more confident you'll feel.
That makes sense. It's like you're building muscle memory for speaking. Are there any other practice techniques you'd recommend?
Another one is recording yourself speaking English.
I hate listening to my own voice. It's always so cringy.
I know it can be tough at first, but trust me, it's one of the best ways to identify areas where you can improve.
Okay, I'm willing to try it, but what exactly should I be listening for?
Pay attention to your pronunciation, your grammar, your pace, your fluency. Notice where you hesitate, where you make mistakes, where you could sound more natural.
It's like being your own English coach, right? Identifying your weaknesses so you can work on them.
Exactly. The more you do it, the more comfortable you'll become with hearing yourself speak English, which, believe it or not, can actually boost your confidence.
That's interesting. It's like desensitizing yourself to that initial fear of hearing your own voice.
And here's a bonus tip that might surprise you. Don't be afraid to experiment with different accents.
Wait, really? I always thought the goal was to sound as close to a native speaker as possible.
That's a common misconception. While it's great to aim for clear and understandable pronunciation, you don't need to erase your own accent entirely.
So it's okay to embrace my own unique way of speaking English.
Absolutely. In fact, many people find that having a slight accent can be charming and endearing. It adds personality to your speech.
I love that. It's like adding your own personal flair to your English.
Now, we've talked a lot about individual strategies for overcoming nervousness, but there's another piece to this puzzle, the environment and the people you're speaking with.
You mean like where you are and who you're talking to can actually affect how nervous you feel?
Absolutely. The sources really emphasize the importance of surrounding yourself with supportive and encouraging people.
People who make you feel safe to make mistakes, right? Like a judgment-free zone.
Exactly. If you feel judged or pressured, it's only natural for your anxiety to increase.
So how do we create that kind of supportive environment?
Well, it starts with choosing your conversation partners wisely. Look for people who are patient, understanding, and encouraging.
So maybe not jumping into a debate about politics with a native English speaker right off the bat.
Probably not the best idea. Instead, seek out language partners who are also learning English or who have experience learning other languages. They'll be more likely to empathize with the challenges you're facing.
That's a great point. They've been there, they get it. The sources also mentioned something about online language communities. Are those helpful?
Incredibly helpful. They provide a space where you can connect with other learners from all over the world, share experiences, ask questions, and practice your speaking skills without feeling judged. It's like having a global network of cheerleaders in your corner.
That sounds amazing.
Right.
What about the physical environment? Can that affect how nervous you feel?
Absolutely. Have you ever noticed how you feel more relaxed and comfortable in certain spaces? Like you're more likely to open up and chat with someone in a cozy coffee shop than in a sterile office building.
Oh, totally. I'm a much better conversationalist when I'm surrounded by good vibes.
The same applies to speaking English. If you're feeling anxious, try to find a physical space where you feel comfortable and at ease.
So like create a little oasis of calm.
Exactly. It could be a quiet corner in your home, a park bench with a beautiful view, even your favorite coffee shop. The key is to find a space that reduces distractions and helps you relax.
I love that. It's all about setting yourself up for success. Now let's talk about something that I think a lot of English learners struggle with, the fear of forgetting words or making grammatical errors. I know I do.
It's a very common fear, but it's important to remember that everyone makes mistakes, even native English speakers.
Really? I always imagine them with this perfect vocabulary and grammar, always at their fingertips.
It might seem that way, but trust me, even native speakers have their brain fog moments where they forget words or make mistakes.
That's actually kind of reassuring. It's human to mess up even in your native language. But still, the fear of making those mistakes in English can be paralyzing. How do we overcome that?
It starts with accepting that mistakes are an inevitable part of the learning process. Instead of viewing them as failures, try to see them as opportunities for growth.
So embrace the imperfections.
Exactly. And remember, most of the time, people are more focused on understanding your message than on dissecting your grammar.
That makes me feel better. But what about those times when you just can't think of the right word? It's like my mind goes completely blank.
Don't panic. There are a few strategies you can use. One is called circumlocution, which basically means describing the word you're trying to remember.
So instead of saying I need a thingamajig, I could say I need a tool for, fixing things.
Exactly. It might sound a bit roundabout, but it gets your message across, and it buys you some time to think of the right word.
That's clever. Any other tips for those word loss moments?
You can also try using simpler synonyms or rephrasing the sentence. So instead of saying, I'm feeling apprehensive about this presentation, you could say, I'm a little nervous about this presentation. Don't be afraid to simplify.
That's a great reminder. I sometimes feel like I need to use the biggest, most impressive words to sound intelligent.
Clear and concise is always better than trying to impress with your vocabulary. And if all else fails, don't be afraid to ask for help.
You mean just admit I don't know the word and ask someone?
Exactly. It's not a sign of weakness. It shows that you're willing to learn. Plus, most people are happy to help.
Wow, this is all so helpful. I'm already starting to reframe how I think about making mistakes.
That's fantastic. And remember, the more you practice, the less likely you are to make those mistakes in the first place.
Practice makes progress, right? It's like anything, the more you do it, the better you get.
And the more comfortable you become with speaking English, the less nervous you'll feel. It's a positive feedback loop.
Okay, I'm feeling pumped to keep working on my English skills. What are your final thoughts for part 2 of this deep dive? Any parting words of wisdom?
Remember this, you are capable of so much more than you think. Keep learning, keep practicing, and never be afraid to make mistakes. Those oops moments are just stepping stones on the path to fluency.
I love that. And I think that's a perfect note to end on. We've explored a ton of strategies and techniques for overcoming nervousness and embracing the joy of speaking English. Now it's up to you to take this knowledge and make it your own.
Experiment, practice, have fun, and never give up on your language learning journey.
Until next time, keep diving deep. Welcome back to our deep dive, on conquering nervousness when speaking English. It feels like we've already uncovered so many great tips and tricks in the first 2 parts.
We've explored the psychology behind, those jitters, tackled those practical strategies for managing them, and even delved into, creating that supportive environment.
But there's one area we haven't really explored yet that I'm excited to talk about: technology.
Yes.
I have a feeling it could be a really powerful ally, in our quest to become more confident English speakers.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. The sources point out some interesting ways technology can help. And I'm not just talking about, those basic translation apps.
Okay, spill the tea.
Yeah.
I'm ready to embrace my inner tech geek. Where do we start?
Well, maybe the most obvious place is with language learning apps and websites.
Right.
There's this whole universe of resources out there designed to help you improve your vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, even your conversational skills.
It's like having a virtual English tutor in your pocket, right?
Yeah.
But with so many options, how do you even know where to begin? It's overwhelming.
I hear you. The sources suggest thinking about your individual learning style and goals. Some apps are all about gamified learning, making it fun and engaging. Others offer personalized lessons tailored to your specific needs.
So it's like finding the right workout routine.
Yeah.
Some people love those high-intensity classes. Others prefer yoga.
Exactly.
It's all about what works for you. What are some of the things to look for in a language learning app?
I definitely recommend looking for apps that offer a variety of activities. Think interactive exercises, listening comprehension, even speaking practice with feedback on your progress. That way you can actually track your improvement and see where you need to focus.
That makes sense. It's like having a personal trainer for your English skills. Speaking of which, what about pronunciation? That's always been a bit of a struggle for me. Are there any tech tools that can help with that?
Absolutely. There are apps and websites that use speech recognition technology to analyze your pronunciation and give you feedback on how to improve. Some even show you visually how to form the sounds correctly.
Wow, that's incredible. It's like having a virtual speech therapist. That could be a game changer for people who struggle with specific sounds or accents. But what about like the ultimate challenge, actually speaking English in real life situations? Can technology help with that too?
Believe it or not, it can. Have you ever heard of virtual reality simulations for language learning?
Virtual reality, like those headsets that gamers use?
Exactly. They're creating these immersive environments where you can practice speaking English in these really realistic scenarios, like ordering food at a restaurant, giving a presentation, or even going on a job interview.
So it's like a safe space to practice those like nerve-wracking situations without the real-world consequences.
You got it. It's a brilliant way to build confidence and fluency before you actually face those situations in real life. And speaking of real-life connections, there's another tech tool we can't forget: online language communities.
Oh yeah, we talked about those earlier. What's so special about them?
Well, they offer an amazing way to connect with other English speakers around the world. There are countless platforms and groups dedicated to language exchange and practice. You can find partners who are learning English just like you, or native speakers who want to learn your language.
It's like a global network of language enthusiasts. What a fantastic way to practice your skills and make new friends from different cultures.
Exactly. It's a win-win. And with video chat and messaging, you can practice speaking and listening in this relaxed, supportive environment. But there is one important caveat to all of this.
Okay, I'm sensing a but coming. What is it?
Well, as amazing as technology is, it can't replace one crucial element, human connection.
Ah, yes. Real-life, face-to-face interaction.
Yeah, language is at its core about communication, and communication thrives on that human connection. So while technology can be a fantastic supplement, it's important to also seek out opportunities to practice English with, real people.
I love that. It's a good reminder that language learning isn't just about memorizing words and grammar rules. It's about connecting with other human beings. And that's a beautiful thing.
It really is. And it brings a depth and richness to the experience that technology just can't fully replicate.
Well, it seems we've reached the end of our deep dive. Any final words of wisdom for our listeners who are still on that path to, conquering their English-speaking nerves?
Remember this. You are capable of so much more than you think. Keep learning, keep practicing, and never be afraid to make mistakes. Those oops moments are just stepping stones on the path to fluency.
I love that. I think that's the perfect note to end on. We've explored a ton of strategies and techniques, for overcoming nervousness and embracing the joy of speaking English. Now it's up to you to take this knowledge and make it your own.
Experiment, practice, have fun, and never give up on your language learning journey.
Until next time, keep diving deep. All right, so, you've learned the basics of English.
Yeah.
Right? You can have a conversation, but it's like, now what?
Yeah.
You've hit this wall, and you're not really sure how to, break through to that next level.
Totally. As the common feeling we'll talk about today.
Yeah, it's like you're past the beginner stage, but you're not quite at that advanced level where you feel truly comfortable and fluent.
Exactly. And we've got some really cool material to dive into today that I think will be super helpful for anyone in this situation.
Yeah, and what I find really interesting about this particular source material is that it goes beyond just giving generic advice. It actually digs into the science behind language learning.
Oh, cool.
So you know how our brains actually acquire new languages?
Yeah.
And how we can use that to our advantage?
I like that. So I'm flipping through this right now, and one of the things that jumps out at me is this emphasis on active learning.
Yeah. And I think this is particularly interesting when it comes to speaking because, we all love to watch movies and listen to podcasts.
Right.
But this source is saying that's not enough.
Yeah.
You've got to actually be producing the language, not just consuming it.
It's like anything else.
Yeah.
It's the difference between reading a book about how to play tennis and actually getting out there on the court and hitting the ball.
Yeah.
Your brain needs that hands-on experience to really solidify those skills.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. But I will say, I think for a lot of people, myself included, the idea of just going out there and speaking can be kind of terrifying.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially if you don't have anyone to practice with.
Right.
So what do you do if you're in that situation?
Well, that's where this source material comes in handy because they talk about all these different ways to find speaking partners online.
Nice.
There are all these platforms now like HelloTalk or italki that connect you with native speakers who are also learning your language.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's a win-win. You both get to practice.
That's awesome. I like that. Okay, so that's a good tip for overcoming that fear of speaking. But what about this whole shadowing technique?
Yeah.
I've heard about this before, but I've never really understood how it works.
Yeah.
Or why it's effective.
Yeah, I know it sounds a little weird at first.
It does.
But the basic idea is you listen to a native speaker and you try to mimic their pronunciation, their intonation, even their rhythm.
So you're their vocal shadow.
Exactly. And it might feel strange at first, but what's really cool is that by doing this, you're actually training your brain to recognize and reproduce the subtle nuances of the language. All those little things that make a native speaker sound like a native speaker.
So it's not just about putting on an accent or something.
No, not at all. It's about really understanding the underlying mechanics of how they speak.
Interesting.
How they use their voice and their mouth to produce those sounds.
So it's a deeper level of learning.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So I'm starting to get this, but I'm wondering when would you actually use this technique?
Well, it can be really helpful if you're trying to, reduce your accent or improve your fluency for specific purposes. Like if you have to give a presentation.
Right.
Or, you're going to be speaking in a professional setting.
Gotcha.
So you can really target your practice.
So you can pick specific people to shadow based on
absolutely
your goals.
Yeah, if you admire someone's speaking style, you can try to shadow them and sort of absorb.
That's a cool idea. I like that.
Some of their magic.
That's a cool idea. All right, so we've talked about speaking partners. We've talked about shadowing. Another tip that caught my eye was this whole role-playing thing.
Yeah.
I always thought that was kind of like just for acting class or something.
Right.
But this source is saying it can be really valuable for language learning, too.
Absolutely, because it allows you to practice real-life scenarios in a safe environment. So, like, think about situations where you might feel nervous or unsure of yourself in English, like ordering food at a restaurant, asking for directions, giving a presentation.
Oh, yeah, those are all scary.
Yeah, and role-playing lets you rehearse those situations and build your confidence.
Okay.
So that when you're actually in those situations, you'll feel more prepared.
I actually did this before a trip to Italy.
Oh, really?
I was so nervous about like ordering coffee that I practiced like every day for like a week.
Wow.
Just saying like, un cappuccino per favor.
And how did it go?
It actually worked.
That's awesome.
Like I went to the cafe and I was like, un cappuccino per favor. And they understood me.
That's great.
It was a small victory, but it felt amazing.
Yeah. Those small victories are important.
Yeah, they are. They are. All right. So speaking of like different situations, one thing that this source talks about that I found really interesting was the importance of diverse listening material. So like, why not just stick to, clear standard accents when you're practicing listening?
Well, the idea is to train your ear to adapt to the incredible variety of spoken English.
Right.
I mean, think about it. There are so many different accents and dialects out there.
For sure.
And if you only ever listen to one, you're not going to be prepared for the real world.
Right. You're going to go out there and you're going to be like, what?
Exactly.
I don't even understand what anyone's saying.
Yeah, it's like, you wouldn't expect to become a world-class musician if you only listen to one genre of music.
That's true.
You need to expose yourself to different styles, different instruments, different rhythms.
Okay.
And it's the same with language.
So are you saying like I should be listening to a podcast from Scotland and then like a news report from Australia?
Yeah, exactly.
And then maybe like an interview with someone from the American South?
Exactly.
Like all in one day?
Well, maybe not all in one day.
Okay.
But, you want to gradually expand your comfort zone. Start with small variations, and then as you become more comfortable, you can challenge yourself with more diverse accents and dialects.
Okay, so it's like a workout for your ears.
Exactly.
The more you stretch them, the more adaptable they become.
That's a great way to put it.
I like that. All right, so speaking of stretching our ears, this next tip really intrigued me. It's the audiobooks with text thing.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard about this before, but I've never actually tried it.
It's a powerful one.
Yeah, so how does it actually work?
So the idea is you listen to the audiobook while simultaneously reading the text version.
Okay, so like you're seeing the words as you're hearing them.
It might sound like overkill.
Yeah, a little bit.
But what's fascinating is that this simultaneous input creates stronger neural connections.
Okay.
So you're engaging both your auditory and your visual processing, which reinforces the learning and comprehension.
So you're basically like creating this multi-sensory experience of the language. Yeah. That's cool. Okay. So I can see how that would be helpful for like vocabulary and pronunciation. But does it also help with grammar?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because when you encounter a complex sentence in the audiobook, you can see how it's structured in the text.
Oh, that's cool.
It's like having a grammar guide built right into your listening experience.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. This is making me want to ditch my usual podcasts and like dive into an audiobook right now.
I know. It's a great way to learn.
But before we get too carried away with listening, let's move on to reading.
Okay.
This source has some interesting advice that goes beyond just like reading more books. It talks about the importance of like analyzing sentences. Yeah. Not just skimming over new words.
It's about being an active reader.
Okay.
Not just a passive one.
So what does that actually look like?
So when you encounter a sentence that you don't fully understand, take the time to break it down. Look at the structure, the punctuation, the individual word choices. It's like dissecting a complex machine to understand how all the parts work together.
So instead of just like grabbing my dictionary every time I hit a new word, I should be trying to like figure out the meaning based on the surrounding context.
Exactly. Think of it like solving a puzzle.
Okay.
Each word is a clue.
Right.
And the grammar is the framework that holds it all together.
Interesting.
So by analyzing sentences, you're not just learning vocabulary, you're learning how to think in English.
I like that.
Yeah.
So it's like a deeper level of reading comprehension.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
Oh, yeah.
I'm starting to see a theme here with all this advice.
Yeah, what's that?
It's all about like engaging with the language on a deeper level,
Yeah,
not just like skimming the surface.
absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about writing.
Okay.
This is where I personally struggle.
Yeah.
I know writing is important, but I often feel overwhelmed by the thought of like composing long essays or stories or whatever.
Yeah.
So does this source have any advice for making writing practice like more manageable?
It does. It recommends starting small.
Okay.
So instead of aiming for a
Hang
novel,
on.
focus on short journal entries, emails to friends, even just social media posts.
Okay.
The key is consistency,
Gotcha.
making writing a regular part of your routine.
So like just like a little bit every day.
Exactly.
Okay. That feels much less daunting.
Yeah.
All right. So we've talked about speaking, listening, reading, writing. What about vocabulary?
Ah, yes. The building blocks of language.
Yeah, I feel like I'm constantly adding new words to my vocabulary list, but then I struggle to like remember them all.
It's a common problem.
Yeah. So does this source address this?
It does. It suggests ditching the random lists
Okay.
and focusing on thematic vocabulary acquisition.
Thematic vocabulary acquisition. What is that?
So instead of memorizing random words,
Okay.
group them by topics that are relevant to your interests or goals.
Loads up. Cool.
So for example, if you're interested in travel, focus on learning travel-related vocabulary.
Okay.
If you're interested in business, focus on business vocabulary.
It's like creating these little mini dictionaries for different areas of your life.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. That's a really cool idea.
Uh-huh.
Speaking of dictionaries, I noticed this source mentioned something called collocations.
Oh, yes.
I'm not familiar with that term. What are collocations?
So collocations are words that naturally go together in English.
Oh.
Like, for example, we say make a decision,
Right.
not do a decision.
Yeah.
And learning these pairings is a shortcut to sounding more natural and fluent.
So it's like understanding the unspoken rules of the language,
Exactly.
like those subtle combinations that native speakers use without even thinking.
Exactly. And mastering collocations is a key step towards achieving that effortless fluency
Okay.
that often distinguishes advanced learners.
That's cool. All right, so we've covered so much ground already.
We have.
We've talked about speaking strategies, listening strategies, vocabulary, grammar,
Yep.
even a little bit of like mindset stuff.
Yeah.
But before we move on, I'm curious, does this source address the challenge of staying motivated?
It does.
Because I know even with like the best intentions,
Yeah.
it can be hard to like maintain consistency over time.
Yeah. Absolutely. Motivation is a huge part of language learning.
Yeah.
And this source offers some really insightful advice on how to stay motivated.
Cool. Well, I'm definitely interested in hearing more about that.
Yeah, we'll dive into that after a quick break.
Sounds good.
Stay tuned.
Okay, so we've talked about all these different techniques and tips, but
Yeah.
like how do you actually stay motivated?
Right. Like, how do you actually put all this into practice?
Yeah, because it's easy to like get excited about something and then
And go
like a
already.
week later you're like,
Yeah. Life gets in the way.
yeah, exactly.
Get busy, you forget, and then you're like, oh, yeah, I was going to do that.
Yeah, and then you feel bad about yourself.
And then you feel guilty, and then you're
That-
like, well, I'll just start again next week.
It's exactly, and then the cycle continues.
And then it never happens.
Yeah. So what does this source say about like breaking that cycle?
Well, one of the things they emphasize is the importance of setting realistic goals.
Okay.
So instead of like, aiming for this vague idea of fluency,
Right.
break it down into smaller achievable milestones.
So like instead of saying I want to be fluent in English,
Yeah,
I could say I want to be able to like confidently order food at a restaurant.
exactly.
Okay.
Or I want to be able to have a 5-minute conversation with a native speaker
Right.
without feeling completely lost.
Okay. So like smaller, more specific goals.
Exactly, because those smaller goals feel less daunting.
Right.
And they give you like a clear target to aim for.
Yeah. And I think there's something to be said for like those small victories.
Totally.
Like each time you achieve one of those goals,
Yeah.
it's like a little boost of motivation.
It's like a little shot of dopamine.
Right. Exactly. And it makes you want to keep going.
Yeah. And the source also emphasizes the importance of celebrating those small wins
Okay.
because it's easy to get caught up in what you haven't accomplished yet.
Right.
But taking the time to acknowledge your progress can be really motivating.
So maybe instead of beating myself up for like not understanding every single word in a podcast, I should be celebrating the fact that I understood like 80% of it.
Exactly. Focus on how far you've come,
Okay.
not how far you still have to go.
That's a good point. I like that.
Yeah.
But even with like realistic goals and a positive attitude, I think there's still that challenge of like, life just gets in the way sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
Like work deadlines, family
that
commitments.
new Netflix show that everyone's talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's hard to like make time for English practice when there's all this other stuff going on.
Right. And the source acknowledges that consistency can be a real challenge.
Okay.
But they offer a really cool suggestion.
Okay, what's that?
They say, make English practice a part of your daily routine, even if it's just for a few minutes at a time.
So like instead of trying to carve out this huge chunk of time
Right.
every day to study English,
Yeah.
I could just do like little things here and there.
Exactly. Find those little pockets of time in your day and turn them into micro-learning sessions.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
So like maybe while I'm waiting for my coffee to brew in the morning,
Yep.
I could review some vocabulary flashcards.
Exactly. Or you could listen to a 5-minute English news podcast
Right.
while you're getting ready for work.
Okay. So it's like sneaking in little bits of practice throughout the day.
Exactly.
I like that. It's like those fitness trackers that encourage you to get 10,000 steps a day.
Uh-huh.
You don't have to run a marathon.
Right.
You just have to find ways to like incorporate movement into your everyday life.
Exactly. And those small, consistent efforts add up over time.
Yeah, they do. And speaking of tracking progress,
Mm-hmm.
this source also recommends like actually tracking your progress.
How interesting.
Yeah, whether it's like a simple notebook or a language learning app.
Seeing how far you've come can be really motivating.
So it's like visually mapping out your journey. So
Exactly.
you can see all those little steps that you've taken. Okay, that's cool. But I think it's also important to acknowledge that like motivation ebbs and flows.
Oh, absolutely.
Like there are going to be days when you're super energized and ready to tackle anything.
Yeah,
And then there are going to be days when you just want to like curl up on the couch and watch TV.
exactly. And that's okay.
Yeah. So how do we like keep ourselves engaged even on those low motivation days?
Well, the source suggests that the key to staying motivated is to make learning fun and engaging.
Okay, so it's about finding activities that feel more like play than work.
Exactly. Think about your interests, your hobbies, the things that bring you joy,
Okay.
and then find ways to incorporate English into those activities.
So like if I'm a movie buff,
Uh-huh.
I could watch movies in English with subtitles.
Exactly.
Or like if I'm a music lover,
Mhm.
I could listen to English music and like try to understand the lyrics.
Yeah. Or you could even like join an online community of people who are also learning English.
So you can like connect with other people who are going through the same thing.
Exactly, because learning a language doesn't have to be a solitary activity.
Right. It can be social and fun.
Exactly. And the more you enjoy the process, the more likely you are to stick with it.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of like practical strategies and tips.
Mm-hmm.
But before we wrap up, I think it's important to like circle back to the why.
The why.
Like, why are we doing all of this?
Yeah, like what's the motivation behind all of this effort?
Yeah, because I think if we can connect with our why, it makes the how so much easier.
Absolutely. Like if you know why you're learning English,
Yeah.
you're more likely to find the time and the energy to actually do it.
Right. So I want to pose a question to our listener right now.
Okay.
What is it about achieving fluency in English that truly excites you?
That's a good question.
What are those dreams, those aspirations
Mm-hmm.
that are driving you forward on this language journey?
Yeah, because once you tap into that,
Yeah.
that's where the real magic happens.
Exactly. Is it the desire to connect with people from different cultures,
Mm-hmm.
to travel the world with confidence, to
Yeah.
unlock new career opportunities?
Right. Or maybe it's something else entirely.
Yeah. So take a moment to really reflect on those deeper motivations.
Yeah.
Because when you connect with your why, the how becomes so much easier.
It's like having a compass
Yeah.
that guides you through the vast and sometimes overwhelming landscape of language learning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're not just wandering aimlessly.
Right.
You have a clear direction, a destination in mind.
And remember, even if you encounter detours or roadblocks along the way,
Yeah.
even if you hit those inevitable plateaux,
Wait.
that's okay.
It's all part of the process.
It's all part of the journey.
Exactly. And the key is to like keep that curiosity alive, that passion for learning burning bright.
Because at the end of the day, learning English is not just about mastering grammar rules or memorizing vocabulary lists.
Right.
It's about opening doors to new experiences,
Yeah.
new connections, new ways of seeing the world.
It's about like expanding your horizons,
Exactly.
both intellectually and personally.
It's about becoming a citizen of the world,
Yes.
one conversation, one book, one song at a time.
I love that. Beautifully said. So, like, maybe you dream of reading Shakespeare in the original English.
That's a good one.
Or maybe you want to be able to give a killer presentation in English to a global team.
Yeah, whatever it is that really gets you excited about mastering English.
And I think once you've identified that, like, it makes the whole process so much easier.
It's like you've got a compass now,
Exactly. You're not just, like, wandering around in the dark anymore.
You know where you're headed.
You've got a destination.
And that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it does. But, even with a compass, you might still run into some obstacles along the way.
Oh, absolutely. There are going to be detours and roadblocks and, maybe you'll hit a plateau or two.
Right. And it's important to remember that, like, that's okay.
Yeah. Those are all part of the journey.
It's not about being perfect. It's about just, like, keeping that momentum going.
Keep moving forward, even if it's just one small step at a time.
Exactly. And, like, never lose sight of that joy of learning.
Because at the end of the day, that's what's going to keep you coming back for more.
I totally agree. All right. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
We've talked about the challenges, the strategies, the mindset, the motivation.
All the things you need to know to break through that intermediate plateau and achieve true fluency in English.
So to our listeners out there, we hope you found this deep dive helpful and inspiring.
Yeah, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep practicing, keep pushing yourself.
And never give up on your English learning dreams.
Because with the right approach and a little bit of perseverance, anything is possible.
That's right. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, this has been fun.
And until next time, happy learning.
Keep those conversations going. All right, get ready to decode some seriously colorful language because today we're diving deep into the world of American English idioms.
Ooh, idioms.
Yeah, those quirky sayings that make you scratch your head and think, wait, what?
Like raining cats and dogs.
Exactly.
Or kick the bucket.
See, you're already speaking the language.
I heard a few.
And we're going to uncover a whole treasure trove of them thanks to your fantastic suggestion, Advanced English Conversation Dialogues by Jackie Boland.
This book is jam-packed with idioms. It's amazing.
My first thought was, how are we going to cover all of this in one deep dive? It's like a crash course in cultural fluency.
Right. But as I started flipping through it, I realized each idiom is like a mini story, a little snapshot of culture and humor all rolled into one.
That's so true. And that's probably why they're so memorable, right? You can picture them, you can feel them. They're not just words on a page.
And they add so much personality to your language.
Yeah.
It's like if you can sprinkle these into your conversations naturally, it shows you're not just speaking English, you're understanding the culture behind it.
It's like you've cracked the code. You're in the club.
Yeah, you're not just a tourist anymore.
Exactly. So we're going to tackle this book theme by theme: money, health, relationships, work, that kind of thing.
Okay, that was good.
So you'll have a whole arsenal of idioms ready to go for any situation. Let's start with something universally relatable: money. Everyone's got a money story.
Money talks, right?
Oh, there you go. Another idiom. But the book starts with cost an arm and a leg and uses the classic example of buying a car. I mean, haven't we all felt that way at some point?
Oh, absolutely. That feeling of, like, your wallet is cringing.
Like, ouch, that hurts.
But what's interesting is this idiom isn't just about something being expensive. It goes a bit deeper. It suggests a level of, like, sacrifice involved.
Right.
Like, imagine way back when bartering was more common, giving up a limb was, like, the ultimate price.
Oh, wow. I never thought of it like that.
Now, obviously, no one's actually losing body parts over a car these days. But the idiom captures that feeling of, this is going to hurt my bank account, but I really, really want it.
Okay, so it's not just about the money itself, but the feeling of what you're giving up to get it. Makes sense.
The emotional cost, yeah.
And the book also mentioned break the bank, again, with that car example. Are those two interchangeable? Cost an arm and a leg versus break the bank?
Well, they're both talking about big expenses, definitely. But break the bank takes it a step further. It's not just a dent in your savings. It implies complete and utter financial ruin.
Oh, wow.
Like you've wiped out your accounts, maybe even gone into debt. Think of an actual bank vault, like smashed open and empty. That's the level of devastation we're talking about.
Okay, so if cost an arm and a leg is like wincing at a high price tag, break the bank is a full-blown financial meltdown. Got it. Now, the book also brings up living within your means, which seems pretty straightforward, right? Spend less than you earn, that kind of thing.
Yeah, basic budgeting.
But I feel like there's a whole philosophy behind that idiom, isn't there?
Absolutely. It's about being financially responsible, making sure your spending aligns with your income for sure, But it's not just about practicality. It reflects a certain mindset, like a way of approaching money that emphasizes stability and long-term security over those instant gratification purchases.
So if someone is constantly breaking the bank or things are always costing them an arm and a leg, they're probably not the best at living within their means. I guess the opposite of that would be what the book called splashing out.
You got it. Splashing out is all about indulging, treating yourself, maybe even being a little bit reckless with your spending. Like, think of a lavish vacation, a designer handbag. Those are all splashing out moments.
Okay, so we've gone from the pain of big expenses to the joy of treating yourself, all within the realm of money idioms.
There's an idiom for everything.
But everyone gets tired of talking about finances eventually. So let's shift gears to a topic we all experience, health. And the book uses the phrase, feeling under the weather, which honestly I feel like I've used 1,000,000 times when calling in sick to work.
Oh, it's a classic. It perfectly captures that feeling of being a bit off, Not seriously ill, but definitely not at your best.
Like just blah.
Yeah, just blah.
But what's interesting to me is how that idiom uses the weather as a metaphor for health.
Oh, that's a good point.
It's almost like we see illness as this temporary storm we have to weather.
Like that, yeah.
To get through.
To ride it out.
But what if you're actually really sick? Like stuck in bed, can't move, kind of sick. Would under the weather still cut it?
Oh, for that level of misery, we have stronger idioms.
Bring on the strong ones.
Okay, imagine someone completely knocked down by a bug, like they're really suffering. That's when you'd say they're sick as a dog.
Sick as a dog. I love that one.
Yeah.
It's funny because, dogs don't usually get sick that often, do they?
Not that we know of.
But I get the point. It's about feeling totally wiped out. Though there's got to be an idiom for when it's even worse than that, right? When it's
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
When someone's health is in serious jeopardy, it's a grave situation.
Oh.
We say they're at death's door.
Oh, yikes.
Not a very cheerful one, I'll admit, but thankfully it's not an idiom we use very often.
Hopefully not. But the book also mentioned worse for wear, which seems to fall somewhere in between under the weather and sick as a dog. Maybe it's like that feeling after a really rough night out.
You're picking up on those nuances. Worse for wear is more general. It means being drained or exhausted, whether it's from illness, stress, even a wild party.
Yeah, like you've been through the ringer a little bit.
Exactly. It implies that you're depleted, but you'll bounce back. It's temporary.
You'll recover.
You'll recover.
Okay, so we've covered the spectrum from feeling a little off to being on the verge of collapse, all with colorful idioms. But health isn't just about illness, right? It's about taking care of ourselves, both physically and mentally. Speaking of which, the book uses this great phrase when talking about stress relief, blowing off some steam.
Blowing off some steam.
Yeah.
So essential.
So important.
But think about it, why steam? Steam is like built up pressure that needs to be released.
Right.
Just like when we kind of bottle up our emotions, it creates that internal pressure. So this idiom is about finding those healthy ways to let it out, whether it's through exercise or creative outlets or even a good vent section with a friend,
Just let it out.
Just let it out.
So it's not about avoiding emotions altogether. It's about channeling them in a way that doesn't make us, explode like an overheated tea kettle.
Exactly. Finding those outlets that help us de-stress and regain our balance is key.
Balance. I like that. And speaking of balance, the book also has this line where a character says, I wish I hadn't been such a couch potato. An apple a day keeps the doctor away, right? It's classic advice.
Yeah.
But is there any truth to it? I mean, is a single apple really a magical cure-all?
Well, I don't think a single apple has those kind of superpowers. But what's fascinating about this idiom, despite being about a literal fruit, it captures a much broader concept.
What's that?
Preventative health.
Yeah.
It's about making those healthy choices a regular part of your routine so you're less likely to need those major medical interventions later on.
It's like the idiom itself is this little nudge towards taking care of ourselves.
A little reminder. And if you're doing all the right things, maybe you could even say you're as fit as a fiddle.
As fit as a fiddle. I like that one.
Who doesn't want to be compared to a perfectly tuned instrument?
I know, right? Sounds good to me. So from under the weather to as fit as a fiddle, we've covered a lot of ground in the health department.
Yeah, we have.
But there's another area of life where idioms really shine, and that is relationships. And I'm not talking about just the lovey-dovey kind. I'm talking about the full spectrum of human connection, from friendships to family dynamics, even those tricky workplace relationships.
Yeah, the juicy ones.
Oh, yeah. The book had one that really jumped out at me. It's giving someone the cold shoulder.
Ooh, a cold shoulder.
Yeah. And they used it to describe a strained parent-child relationship, which can definitely get icy sometimes, right?
Oh, absolutely. Family drama is the best drama.
Oh, it's the worst. It's the worst. But it's a powerful image, giving the cold shoulder. You can practically feel the chill in the air.
Yeah, like you're being ignored.
Yeah, like, don't talk to me.
Exactly. But giving the cold shoulder is more than just physical distance. It's about that deliberate withdrawal of affection and communication. It's a way of saying, I'm upset, and I'm not ready to engage with you right now.
Okay, so it's not just about being busy or needing some space. It's a deliberate act of showing displeasure. But is that the same as what the book calls letting the dust settle? That seems more about just taking a time out.
You're right, there is a difference. Letting the dust settle is more about creating a temporary pause, allowing emotions to cool down before you address the situation directly. Imagine like a room filled with swirling dust after a fight. You can't see clearly until things settle, right?
Right, yeah.
It's about taking that step back to gain perspective before you jump back into the fray.
So giving the cold shoulder is intentional. It's a bit of a power move, while letting the dust settle is more about strategic disengagement. That makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. It's all about understanding the subtle messages behind these idioms and using them appropriately. Now, let's talk about those really strong positive relationships.
Okay.
The book has this adorable idiom, 2 peas in a pod, to describe those close friendships. I mean, it just makes me picture like 2 little peas snuggled up together, completely inseparable.
It's such a cute image. It perfectly captures that feeling of being so in sync with someone, sharing the same interests, values, even quirks, like you're 2 halves of a whole.
And that kind of connection can be so valuable.
Yeah.
But let's be real, even the best of friendships aren't always sunshine and rainbows.
That's true.
Remember that workplace drama in the book where someone gets stabbed in the back?
Ooh, yeah.
That takes us to a much darker side of relationships.
Ugh, stabbed in the back. It's such a visceral idiom. It goes way beyond a simple disagreement or misunderstanding. It's about a deliberate betrayal of trust. A wound that cuts deep and can be hard to heal.
Exactly. It evokes a sense of shock, pain, and vulnerability. It highlights how actions can have a much deeper impact than words, especially when trust is broken.
So we've gone from the warmth of being 2 peas in a pod to the sting of betrayal. Relationships are a roller coaster, aren't they?
They really are.
But speaking of journeys, let's move on to our final theme for this part of our deep dive work. The book starts off this section with a classic hit the books, which, let's be honest, every student has heard at some point.
Oh, it's a rite of passage.
It's like a universal experience.
It is.
But it's more than just studying, right?
Yeah.
It implies a certain level of dedication and intensity.
It's like, imagine physically striking those books to force the knowledge into your brain.
Oh, I get it.
That's the level of effort we're talking about.
It's funny because the book actually advises against cramming and pulling all-nighters, which seem pretty similar to hitting the books at first glance. What's the difference?
It's all about the approach and the mindset. Hitting the books suggests a consistent, structured study routine, whereas cramming and pulling all-nighters, that's like last-minute desperation.
Okay.
Trying to cram information into your brain in a panic. The idiom itself, hit the books, reflects a more effective and sustainable way of learning.
So it's not just about the hours you put in, it's about how you use those hours. Smart. Now, the book also has this great section on study tips, which seems like a perfect segue into our next idiom, working your fingers to the bone.
That one evokes a sense of pure hard work.
Yeah.
It paints this picture of someone toiling tirelessly, pushing themselves to their limits to achieve a goal. But what's interesting is it applies to both physical and mental labor. Think of a writer spending hours hunched over a manuscript, or a programmer working late into the night to meet a deadline.
Yeah.
Those are both examples of working your fingers to the bone.
It's like the idiom itself is a testament to dedication and perseverance, even if it hints at a bit of exhaustion, too.
It does, yeah.
But not all work is about burning the midnight oil. Sometimes we stress ourselves out unnecessarily, making mountains out of molehills, as the book puts it.
That's a classic.
That's such a good one. It's all about perspective, right? We blow things out of proportion, turning minor setbacks into these major catastrophes. It's like that feeling when you spill a drop of coffee on your shirt and suddenly feel like the entire day is ruined.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Yeah, but the idiom reminds us to zoom out, see the bigger picture, and not let those little things derail us.
Exactly. It's a gentle reminder to, like, chill out. Don't sweat the small stuff.
Exactly. So from the intensity of hitting the books and working your fingers to the bone to the importance of keeping things in perspective, we've covered quite a bit in the work realm. But we've also touched on money, health, and relationships. What's the big takeaway here? What have we learned from all these idioms?
What's fascinating about these idioms and what we've seen today is that they're not just about vocabulary, they're windows into culture and thought.
That's a great point.
By incorporating these colorful expressions, you'll not only sound more natural in your communication, but you'll also deepen your understanding of how native speakers think and express themselves.
So keep exploring.
Keep playing with language.
Keep having fun with it.
Most importantly, have fun with it.
We'll be back soon with part 2 of this deep dive, where we'll uncover even more fascinating American English idioms from advanced English conversation dialogues.
There are so many more.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
All right, welcome back to our deep dive into the wonderful world of American English idioms. Last time we were talking about money, health, relationships, even some work idioms.
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground.
A lot of ground. But there are so many more to explore. So where are we headed next on this idiom adventure?
Well, let's stick with that work theme for a little bit longer, but this time, let's focus on success.
Okay.
And there's one idiom that really captures that idea of, like, being clever, quick-witted.
Oh, I like those kinds of people.
Yeah, right. Resourceful.
Resourceful.
It pops up in the book when they're describing a character who's always one step ahead.
Okay, give me a hint.
It involves a baked good.
A baked good smart cookie.
Yeah, smart cookie.
Smart cookie. I love that one. It's like you can practically picture someone snapping their fingers and coming up with a brilliant solution, you know?
Yeah, they're sharp.
They're sharp.
Savvy.
Savvy. But is it just about, like, book smarts, or is there more to it?
It definitely goes beyond just having a high IQ, I think. Think about it. Cookies are small, but packed with flavor, right?
Right.
So a smart cookie is someone who's resourceful, adaptable. They can handle any situation with, like, a mix of intelligence and street smarts.
So they're not just, like, good at taking tests.
No, they can handle real-life stuff.
They're out there in the world.
They're the ones who always seem to have a plan, even when things get a bit chaotic.
They're like the problem solvers.
Yeah, the problem solvers.
Okay, so smart cookie, someone who's sharp, savvy, has that certain something that helps them navigate tricky situations. But sometimes even the smartest cookies need a little help along the way.
Oh, absolutely. We all need support.
And that brings us to another idiom that I found really heartwarming. It's a shoulder to cry on.
Oh, a shoulder to cry on.
Yeah, the book uses it to describe that friend who's always there for you no matter what.
It's that deep sense of support, empathy. You know, you have someone you can turn to when things get rough, someone who will listen without judgment and offer comfort when you need it most. It's like a safe haven, a reminder that you're not alone in your struggles.
Yeah, it's like a human security blanket.
Yeah, I like that.
It's so nice.
It is nice.
But it's not just about offering comfort, though, right? It's about being present, going through those ups and downs together. And speaking of which, the book uses a great idiom to describe that kind of long-lasting bond through thick and thin.
Oh, through thick and thin, a classic.
A classic. What does that one mean to you?
It's about resilience.
Yeah.
You're sticking by someone's side no matter what life throws your way, good times and bad. It's that unshakable loyalty that weathers storms and emerges, like even stronger on the other side. It's the kind of friendship that can withstand disagreements, distance, even major life changes.
It's not just about, like, having fun together, you know?
No.
It's about being there for each other through the good times and the bad times.
Exactly.
That's real friendship right there. But let's be real, not all relationships are that deep and meaningful.
True.
Sometimes we connect with people based on shared interests or goals. And the book captures that perfectly with the idiom, birds of a feather flock together.
Yes. It's like we're drawn to those who are like us, who share our values, passions, maybe even our quirks. It's like, those flocks of birds that move in perfect unison. There's a sense of unity and belonging that comes with finding your tribe.
It's like that feeling when you meet someone new and you instantly click Yeah. You just get each other.
Yeah, you're on the same wavelength.
There's no need to explain yourself.
You just vibe.
You just vibe. But even with those natural connections, sometimes things don't go as planned.
Oh, that's life.
And remember that character in the book who made a hasty decision and ended up really regretting it? They definitely jumped the gun on that one.
Oh, jumping the gun, that's a good one.
Yeah.
It's all about acting impulsively without thinking things through. It's like that athlete who takes off before the starting pistol.
Oh, yeah.
They might have a head start, but they've also broken the rules and to face consequences.
So it's like about that fine line between being spontaneous and being reckless.
You got to think before you act.
Sometimes a little patience goes a long way. But speaking of taking action, we've all experienced those moments of like anticipation and nervousness before a big event, right?
Pre-game jitters.
The pre-game jitters, exactly. The book calls it having butterflies in your stomach.
Ooh, those butterflies.
A butterfly.
Yeah, they can be both exciting and nerve-wracking.
I always get them before a big presentation or a job interview. It's like, my stomach is trying to fly away.
It's that fluttery sensation that signals that we're stepping outside our comfort zone, taking a risk, maybe even facing a fear.
Yeah. It's that, like, feeling of the unknown.
Yeah. Like, what's going to happen?
But the book also mentioned a phrase that seems to contradict that feeling of nervousness. A piece of cake. Yeah. Usually that means something's easy, right?
Yeah, super easy breezy.
Breezy.
That's us.
But what's interesting is how the book uses it. It's not about the task itself being easy. It's about having the confidence to tackle it.
It's a mindset.
It's that mindset. It's like a way of reframing a challenge and saying, I got this, no problem.
Yeah, I'm not even sweating it.
Not even sweating it.
Piece of cake.
Piece of cake. So it's like a mental trick to boost your confidence and approach a situation with a positive mindset. But sometimes, even with the best attitude, we need a little extra help from the universe.
Oh, yeah. A little luck never hurts.
A little luck. And that's where fingers crossed comes in, right?
Fingers crossed, absolutely. It's that universal gesture of hoping for the best, wishing for good luck, especially when we have limited control over the outcome.
Right.
It's like we're sending a little prayer to the universe saying, please let this work out in my favor.
It's like a little superstitious boost,
A little extra mojo.
to tip the scales in our direction. And speaking of quirky traditions, there's another one that always throws me off. Break a leg. I mean, who wishes someone an injury, especially right before a big performance?
Right. Seems counterintuitive.
It does.
But break a leg is a classic theatrical idiom. It's like a way of wishing someone good luck on stage. And there are a few theories about its origin. Some say it's like a reverse psychology thing. By wishing for the opposite of what you want, you're somehow warding off bad luck.
Interesting.
Another theory links it to like the idea of bowing so deeply that you might actually break a leg, like as a sign of a successful performance.
So it's either a superstitious charm or a testament to like the dedication of performers.
Yeah.
Either way, it's a unique way of showing support. But sometimes words speak louder than any quirky idiom. The book has this beautiful line where a character simply says, I'm here for you. It's so simple, yet so powerful.
It is. It goes beyond just mere words. It's a declaration of unwavering support. It's a promise to stand by someone's side through those challenges, through thick and thin. It conveys empathy, understanding, and a willingness to offer practical help or just a listening ear.
It's about showing up for someone, letting them know they're not alone in whatever they're going through.
Yeah, exactly. We've all been there. We all need that sometimes.
But sometimes even with support, life throws us curveballs.
Life is unpredictable.
And we need a fresh start.
A reset.
A reset. The book uses a familiar idiom in a new way to describe this, a clean bill of health. We usually associate that with like physical well-being.
Yeah. Go to the doctor, getting a checkup.
Yeah. But the book uses it metaphorically.
Interesting.
To describe like a fresh start after a difficult period. It's like wiping the slate clean, getting a second chance, emerging from a challenge with renewed energy and a clear perspective.
It's like a mental and emotional clean bill of health.
Exactly. So it's not just about being free from illness. It's about feeling mentally and emotionally refreshed, ready to tackle whatever comes next.
Love that.
But getting to that point often involves a process of recovery and rebuilding.
Mm-hmm.
That's where back on my feet comes in.
Oh, yeah, back on my feet.
Mm-hmm.
That's about regaining stability and independence after a setback.
Okay.
It suggests resilience, that ability to bounce back from adversity and move forward with renewed purpose. It could be recovering from an illness, a job loss, a heartbreak. anything that knocks you down temporarily.
Yeah, like you're getting your footing again.
Yeah, you're finding your balance.
It's finding your balance.
You're not knocked out, you're getting back up.
And sometimes that forward momentum requires teamwork and collaboration.
Oh, for sure.
That's where the classic idiom, two heads are better than one, comes into play.
Ah, yes. Two heads are better than one. A testament to the power of collaboration.
I love it. What does it mean to you?
It's about recognizing that, like, we don't have all the answers. And seeking input and diverse perspectives can lead to more creative and effective solutions. It's about leveraging each other's strengths to achieve a common goal.
It's like that brainstorming session where, one idea sparks another, and suddenly you have a solution that's better than anything you could have come up with alone.
Synergy.
Synergy, exactly. But sometimes, even with a great team, the going gets tough and we need a little encouragement to keep pushing forward. The book uses a simple yet effective phrase for this, and it is, keep your chin up.
Oh, I love that one. Keep your chin up. It's like a pep talk in 3 words.
It is.
It's a reminder to stay strong, maintain a positive attitude, and don't let those setbacks define you. It's about focusing on what you can control, finding that silver lining, and believing in your ability to overcome challenges.
It's like that little voice inside your head saying, you got this, don't give up.
Exactly.
But sometimes, even with the best intentions, we reach a point where we need to step back and reassess. The book uses call it a day, which we usually associate with ending the workday.
Right, clocking out.
Clocking out. But they use it in a broader sense.
Interesting. How so?
Well, it can also apply to any situation where we need to recognize our limits, prioritize our well-being, and say enough is enough for now.
Okay, yeah. It's about knowing when to step away, recharge, and come back with renewed energy and focus.
So it's not about quitting.
No.
It's about strategic pausing, taking a break to prevent burnout and come back stronger. And sometimes that break involves spending time with friends. And when it comes to group outings, there's one idiom that always comes up, go Dutch.
Go Dutch. Oh, yeah. All about fairness and equality.
I like it.
Everyone chips in equally for a meal or activity, ensuring no one feels burdened or obligated.
That's good.
Takes the pressure off, creates a more relaxed and enjoyable social experience.
It's like that silent agreement to split the bill evenly, avoiding any awkwardness or resentment. But sometimes we want to do more than just split the bill, right? We want to express generosity and treat our friends. And that's where my treat comes in.
Oh, yeah, my treat. It's a gesture of warmth and hospitality. It's a way of saying, I appreciate you and I want to show you my gratitude.
Oh, that's nice.
It's about strengthening bonds, creating a sense of warmth and camaraderie.
Yeah.
Those little acts of kindness that just brighten someone's day and make them feel special.
I love that. But before we get too carried away with those feel-good vibes, there's one last idiom I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
The book uses it to describe those moments when we have to admit defeat.
Oh, okay.
Throw in the towel.
Throw in the towel. It signifies surrender. Yeah. You're acknowledging that the battle is lost and it's time to move on. It's a difficult decision, often requiring humility and self-awareness, but sometimes it's the wisest choice. Yeah. It allows us to conserve our energy and focus on more promising opportunities.
So we've gone from smart cookies to throwing in the towel.
Quite the range.
From shoulders to cry on to calling it a day. We've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive. What overarching themes are you noticing as we explore these idioms?
What's striking me is how these idioms, while seemingly simple and colloquial, they offer these really profound insights into human nature, relationships, and even the pursuit of success.
It's true.
They highlight the importance of resilience, support systems, balance, and recognizing both our strengths and our limitations. And by understanding these nuances, we can communicate more effectively, navigate challenges with greater ease, and even cultivate more meaningful connections.
So it's about more than just memorizing vocabulary. It's about tapping into that cultural wisdom embedded in these expressions.
Absolutely.
And using them to navigate the complexities of life. We'll be back soon with part 3 of our deep dive, where we'll uncover even more fascinating American English idioms from advanced English conversation dialogues.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back for round 3 of our idiom exploration. Thanks to you and your fantastic suggestion of advanced English conversation dialogues, we've been on quite the journey through the twists and turns of American English idioms.
We have so many good ones.
I know, from those big expenses that cost an arm and a leg to finding a shoulder to cry on when things get rough.
And everything in between. between.
But there are still so many more idioms to uncover. So where are we headed in this final installment of our deep dive?
Well, let's step into a realm where things aren't always as they seem. A world of secrets, surprises, and maybe even a little bit of mischief.
Ooh, sounds intriguing.
Because today, we're talking about idioms that add a touch of drama and intrigue to our conversations.
Okay, I'm ready for the drama.
Are you ready to spill the tea?
Oh, is that an idiom?
Maybe. But speaking of spilling, the book uses this really funny idiom to describe a secret being revealed. Let the cat out of the bag.
Let the cat out of the bag. I love that one.
It's so visual, right?
Yeah.
You can practically picture that mischievous cat escaping and creating chaos.
Total chaos.
But letting the cat out of the bag isn't always accidental.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes it's a deliberate act of sharing confidential information, like, to get ahead or to stir up trouble.
Ooh, juicy gossip.
The book even has a scene where someone reveals their plans to leave their job before everything's finalized.
Oh, so they were like talking about it behind people's backs?
A little bit, yeah.
Not cool. But sometimes those whispers can turn into full-blown conflicts if we don't, what's that phrase, nip things in the bud early on?
Yes, nip it in the bud.
That's a good one.
It's all about taking preventative action, addressing a problem before it escalates.
Okay.
Think of a gardener pruning a plant to prevent it from growing out of control.
Right.
It's about taking that decisive action early on to avoid bigger headaches down the road.
It's like that saying, a stitch in time saves 9. But sometimes, even with the best intentions, things don't always go as planned, and we find ourselves in situations that are just, like, plain confusing. The book uses a very fitting idiom for this clear as mud.
Clear as mud. It's brilliant, isn't it? It's that perfect blend of sarcasm and frustration when something is just utterly incomprehensible.
It's like, what are you even talking about?
Exactly. Imagine trying to see through a thick layer of mud. It's murky, distorted, impossible to make sense of.
It's like those times when you get instructions that are so convoluted, you end up more confused than when you started.
Absolutely. Speaking of confusing situations, there's another idiom that highlights those moments when people just can't seem to agree. See eye to eye.
Oh, yeah, see eye to eye. That's a big one.
Yeah. It's about finding common ground, reaching that shared understanding.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. Like that moment when two people look at the same picture and see the same thing. There's a sense of harmony and alignment.
It's like that aha moment. You realize you're both on the same wavelength. But let's be real, disagreements are part of life.
Yeah, conflict happens.
And sometimes those disagreements can get pretty heated. The book uses a rather explosive idiom to describe this. Blow a gasket.
Blow a gasket. Ooh, that's a good one. It's all about expressing extreme anger or frustration. It's like that old car engine that overheats and suddenly bursts a gasket.
Right.
There's a sense of pressure building up until it reaches that breaking point.
It's like that feeling when you're so angry you feel like you might actually explode.
Exactly. But thankfully, there are healthier ways to blow off some steam.
Right, and we talked about that in part 1 of this deep dive.
Finding those constructive outlets for our emotions, whether it's exercise, creative expression, even just talking things out.
Yeah, just letting it out.
Let it out. It can help us regain our composure and approach situations with a clearer head.
So it's about finding those pressure valves.
Yeah.
That allow us to release those intense emotions in a safe and healthy way. But sometimes, even after all that effort, we reach a point where we have to admit defeat. The book uses a very powerful idiom for this. Throw in the towel.
Oh, throw in the towel. It signifies surrender. You're acknowledging that the battle is lost and it's time to move on.
That's a tough one.
It is tough. It's not an easy decision, but sometimes it's the wisest choice. It allows us to conserve our energy and focus on, more promising opportunities.
It's about picking your battles.
Yeah, exactly. Choosing where you're going to put your energy.
But on the flip side, there are also times when perseverance is key. When we need to dig deep and, what's that phrase, hang in there, despite the challenges.
Hang in there. It's a powerful expression of encouragement. It's about holding on tight, not giving up hope, and believing that things will eventually get better.
It's like that inner strength that helps us weather storms and emerge stronger on the other side.
Yeah, it's that little voice inside your head saying, you got this, just keep going.
And sometimes the best thing to do is to simply call it a day and take a break. And I love how the book uses this idiom, not just for ending the workday, but for any situation where we need to just pause and recharge.
Yeah. call it a day. It can apply to anything from like ending a project to stepping away from a stressful situation.
Right.
It's about recognizing our limits, prioritizing our well-being, giving ourselves permission to rest, and come back with renewed energy.
So it's not about giving up, it's about strategic pausing.
Yeah, exactly.
Taking a break to prevent burnout and maintain a healthy balance.
Self-care.
Self-care is so important.
It is. And sometimes, we need a little bit of luck on our side.
We do. The book uses a simple yet effective phrase for this. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. It's that universal gesture of hoping for the best. You're wishing for a favorable outcome, especially when we have limited control over the situation. It's like we're sending a little prayer to the universe saying, please let this work out.
It's a little superstitious, maybe, but there's something comforting about that gesture. Like we're actively putting that positive energy out into the world.
Manifesting
it. And speaking of positivity, there's one last idiom that I wanted to touch on. Speak of the devil. It's such a funny one, and it always seems to happen at the most unexpected times.
Right. Speak of the devil.
Yeah.
It's all about those surprising coincidences. When the person you were just talking about suddenly appears.
It's like the universe is eavesdropping on us.
It really is. Like it has a sense of humor and is orchestrating these like perfectly timed entrances.
It's always a little startling, but there's something delightful about it too, like a reminder that life is full of unexpected twists and turns.
It keeps us on our toes.
It keeps us on our toes. Well, we've certainly covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into American English idioms, from secrets and surprises to disagreements and frustrations, from giving up to hanging in there. We've explored a wide range of human experiences and emotions through the lens of these really colorful expressions. Any final thoughts for our listeners before we wrap up this linguistic adventure?
I think what's important to remember is that idioms aren't just about memorizing words. It's about understanding the culture, the thought processes behind them. By embracing these sometimes quirky sayings, you're not just expanding your vocabulary, you're gaining a deeper appreciation for the nuances of the English language and the people who speak it.
It's about connecting with the heart and soul of a language.
Exactly. It's more than just fluency. It's about understanding the culture, the humor, and the history behind these expressions.
And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into American English idioms. A huge thank you to you, our listener, for suggesting this fascinating topic.
It was a great choice.
And remember, keep those ears open. You'll start hearing these idioms everywhere. Happy learning. All right, welcome back to the deep dive. So, you're prepping for a trip, getting ready to travel.
It's exciting.
Super exciting, right? You want to make sure you're ready, your English is all set to make the most of that experience.
Yeah.
So we are going on a deep dive into some essential travel vocabulary.
That's fun.
We've got a great resource here. It's nicely organized, breaks it down first by location,
Okay.
airport, hotel, restaurant, you name it. And then within each location, you've got beginner, intermediate, advanced.
I like that.
Yeah, it gives you options, right?
Yeah.
Plus, it even has some sample dialogue, so you can actually hear these phrases in action, hear how they're used.
That's a really practical approach.
Yeah.
Because honestly, learning a language for travel, it's not about, reciting grammar rules perfectly.
Yeah.
It's about confidently handling those real-world situations.
Exactly.
Right.
So let's picture ourselves. We're at the airport.
Okay.
Maybe a little overwhelming, even for seasoned travelers.
Oh, it's true. Busy place. Lots going on.
Yeah, so many people, different languages.
But even having a few basic phrases down can just make such a difference in how smoothly things go.
For sure.
Especially check-in, baggage claim.
Yeah.
Keeping it simple and direct avoids confusion.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you know what I love about these intermediate phrases? They cover those little things that just make a flight more comfortable.
It's that.
Like how to request an aisle seat.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one to have.
Yeah.
For sure. Nobody wants the middle seat on a long flight.
No, you don't. And speaking of potential stress points, knowing how to ask about excess baggage fees,
Oh, yeah.
that could save you some trouble, save you some money at the counter.
Definitely.
Yeah. Now, these advanced phrases, they really show you're a seasoned traveler,
Okay.
like confirming baggage allowances beforehand or, navigating that priority boarding process.
You've thought ahead. You're prepared.
Shows you're prepared, yeah. What stands out to you about the sample dialogues for this section?
Well, I think the one where you're asking about baggage allowance policy is good.
Yeah, okay. Let's try it out.
Okay.
Imagine you're at the check-in counter. Excuse me. Could you please confirm the baggage allowance policy for international flights?
Certainly. You're allowed 2 checked bags weighing up to 23 kilograms each.
Perfect. See, you're speaking the language of the airport. All right, so we've made it through check-in security. Let's fast forward. We've arrived at the hotel.
Okay.
This is another place where just clear communication can really elevate the experience.
For sure. At that beginner level, it's all about the essentials, right?
Yeah.
Checking in, getting your key, figuring out when checkout is.
Yeah. And it's so important to have your reservation details handy, too, in case there's a mix-up.
Good point.
Now, we level up to the intermediate phrases. I'm seeing some really handy ones here.
Like what?
Like asking if breakfast is included.
Oh, always a good one.
Key question. And, just don't be afraid to advocate for your needs, whether it's asking for extra towels, inquiring about amenities. Remember, being polite but assertive can make your stay more comfortable.
Absolutely.
Okay, now these advanced phrases.
All right.
Really impressive.
What do we got?
Requesting late checkout, inquiring about concierge services.
You're traveling in style.
You are. What I like about these phrases is that they show you're interested in more than just the basics,
Yeah.
Like asking for local attraction recommendations, it shows that you want to really experience the destination.
Like a local.
Yeah, like a local. All right, let's put some of these advanced phrases into action.
Okay.
Imagine you've just arrived at your hotel. You want to make the most of your stay.
Okay.
You walk up to the desk, you say, "Good evening, I have a reservation under your name, and if you have a moment, I'd love to get some recommendations for local attractions, especially anything within walking distance."
Of course. Here's your key. We also have this great map highlighting nearby points of interest. There's a fantastic local market just a few blocks away. I highly recommend checking it out.
Look at you, settling right in. You've mastered the airport, the hotel, but now I think it's time we talk about one of the best parts of any trip.
What's that?
Food.
Food, absolutely.
It's such an incredible window into a culture.
It is.
And even if your vocabulary is limited, having a few basic phrases can make your dining experiences so much more enjoyable.
For sure.
Ordering from a menu, asking about the price, just navigating those initial interactions can feel so much smoother.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how much a simple please and thank you can go, even if that's all the local language you know.
It does. It shows respect.
It does. It shows respect, a willingness to engage.
Yeah.
Now, these intermediate phrases, they're starting to get into some fun territory.
What are we talking about?
Like asking about the specialty of the house.
Oh, good one.
Right.
Yeah.
What a great way to try something new, something exciting.
You discover those hidden gems that way. Not always in the guidebooks.
You do. And requesting recommendations from your server,
Oh, yeah.
it shows that you're open to exploring local flavors.
It does. It shows a willingness to go beyond your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Which can lead to some amazing experiences.
Some really memorable culinary experiences. What are your thoughts on the advanced phrases in this section?
Well, I'm impressed with the level of detail here.
Yeah.
Handling dietary restrictions,
Yeah.
inquiring about wine pairings. You're a foodie expert.
You are.
It's great. And, even if you don't consider yourself a foodie, having a phrase ready for, if your steak's undercooked,
Oh, yeah.
that can be helpful. It's
Yeah.
about being able to communicate your needs clearly, but politely. you
Yeah.
know, even in a slightly awkward situation.
Yeah. And this sample dialogue is a perfect example of that. Let's imagine you're at a lovely restaurant, but you need to check about vegetarian options.
Okay.
Excuse me, are there any vegetarian options on the menu?
Yes, of course. We have a delightful lentil stew and a roasted vegetable pasta that are both quite popular.
So polite and helpful. Now, with our stomachs full, our confidence boosted, I think it's time we head out and explore the city.
Sounds like an adventure.
Yeah. This section is all about giving you the tools to navigate a new place with confidence. From basic directions to figuring out the best way to get somewhere, we've got you covered.
Great. Yeah, and sometimes those unexpected detours lead to the most interesting discoveries.
That's so true. Speaking of detours, I'm really curious about these intermediate phrases for asking about alternative routes or reporting delays. It's like you're anticipating the unexpected.
Exactly. Because, let's be real, travel rarely goes exactly according to plan.
Right.
Being able to adapt on the fly, that's crucial.
It is. What are your thoughts on the advanced phrases for this section?
Well, these definitely take things to the next level.
Yeah.
Booking private cars, understanding toll systems, even handling car rentals.
You're a transportation pro.
It's all about giving you that flexibility to explore a destination on your own terms.
I like.
Whether you're sticking to public transport or venturing off the beaten path, having these phrases in your toolkit, it can really empower you.
Okay, let's put our transportation vocabulary to the test.
All right.
Imagine we're at a bustling train station. We need to catch our next train.
Okay.
Excuse me, what time does the next train to your destination depart?
The next train departs from platform 5 at 10:15 a.m. Would you like me to show you where that is?
Wow, we're on our way. Now, we've tackled getting around, but there's another essential part of travel we need to talk about.
What's that?
Shopping.
Oh, yes.
Shopping.
It's such a fun way to experience a new place, whether you're browsing local markets for souvenirs or, seeking out those one-of-a-kind treasures.
Absolutely.
And this section has phrases for every kind of shopping experience, from, simple inquiries to those more nuanced interactions.
Even at that beginner level, having those essential phrases down can make a big difference.
Yeah.
Asking about prices, sizes, do they accept credit cards? It helps you navigate those initial exchanges. Yeah. And I think it's important to remember that, even if you don't speak the local language fluently, showing that you're making an effort to communicate respectfully, it can really enhance those interactions.
I agree.
It can. Now, the intermediate phrases, they're all about engaging with the shopping experience more deeply.
Okay.
Expressing interest, asking for assistance, even trying on clothes. It takes things to the next level.
Yeah.
I love how practical these phrases are. Let's be honest, we've all been in that situation where you need to ask, do you have this in a different size? Or can I try this on? Having those phrases ready can be a lifesaver.
It's true. It's about being able to communicate your needs clearly and confidently.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the advanced phrases here?
Well, these are for the true shopping aficionado. Bargaining, inquiring about specific items, even complimenting the craftsmanship.
You're a master negotiator.
And it's about more than just making a purchase.
Yeah.
It's about appreciating the artistry, the cultural significance behind the objects you're buying. Complimenting someone's work can create a special connection.
It's those little moments of human connection that can make a trip so memorable.
For sure.
Now, we've talked about a lot of positive travel scenarios, but it's also important to be prepared for those, just in case moments.
Right.
So let's talk about handling emergencies.
Okay, this is where clear, concise communication is absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
Knowing a few key phrases can make all the difference in getting the help you need, especially in a stressful situation.
Absolutely. At the beginner level, it's about mastering those essential phrases. Calling for help, explaining that you need a doctor, reporting a theft.
Right.
It's about knowing how to get your message across in those critical moments.
And even if you don't know a lot of, medical terminology,
Right.
being able to convey some basic information is so helpful.
It is. The intermediate phrases cover things like describing symptoms, explaining allergies, finding the nearest pharmacy.
It's like having a little mini first aid kit
Yes.
of essential phrases.
Ready to go. What stands out to you in the advanced phrases for this section?
Well, these phrases are about being prepared for, more complex medical situations,
Okay.
describing pre-existing conditions, requesting specific medications, even understanding insurance coverage.
Yeah,
It can really put your mind at ease.
it can. It's about being proactive and informed, which can be so empowering, especially when you're far from home.
Exactly.
So let's imagine a scenario where you need to seek medical attention.
Okay.
You walk up to the desk and you say, "Excuse me, I need to see a doctor. I'm feeling unwell and I think I might have a fever."
Certainly, I can help you with that. Is there a particular type of doctor you need to see?
See, having those phrases ready can make a potentially stressful situation so much more manageable.
Absolutely.
Now, let's shift gears and talk about something a little lighter.
Okay.
Social situations.
Ah, yes. Social interactions, such a vital part of travel.
They are. They allow you to connect with people, learn about different cultures, and create those lasting memories. And this section covers the whole spectrum of social interactions, from basic greetings to those more, in-depth conversations.
At the beginner level, it's all about those foundational phrases. Saying hello, introducing yourself, expressing basic courtesies.
Yeah.
Those are the building blocks of any social interaction.
They are, and I think it's easy to underestimate the power of those simple greetings. Even a warm smile and a hello can go a long way in establishing a connection.
Especially when you're in a new environment.
Yeah.
those small gestures can make you feel more comfortable and approachable.
They do, they do. Now, the intermediate phrases are about taking those conversations a step further.
Okay.
Asking questions, sharing information about yourself, even expressing opinions.
It's about engaging with the people you meet and learning from their perspectives.
It is. It is. I'm really enjoying these advanced phrases for social situations.
Yeah.
They take things to a whole new level.
They do, don't they? Expressing gratitude, giving compliments, even engaging in a little bit of lighthearted banter. It shows you're really comfortable with the language.
It's about connecting with people on a deeper level and embracing those cultural nuances.
I like that.
Let's try out one of these advanced phrases.
Okay.
Imagine you've just met someone new. You want to keep the conversation going.
Okay.
You say, "Hello, my name is your name. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm visiting from your city. What's your favorite thing about living here?"
It's lovely to meet you too. I love the vibrant energy of this city. There's always something happening, and the people are so welcoming.
Wonderful. You've sparked a conversation that could lead to all sorts of new discoveries.
Exactly.
Okay, we've covered social interactions, but there's another essential aspect of travel we need to address.
What's that?
Transportation.
Ah, yes. Transportation, the lifeline of any trip.
It is. It's how you get from point A to point B, experience the landscapes, and sometimes even have those unexpected adventures along the way.
That's right.
And this section has everything you need to know, from asking for directions to mastering different modes of transport.
For sure. At that beginner level, it's all about those essential interactions.
Yeah.
Asking about bus or train schedules, purchasing tickets, even requesting assistance with your luggage.
Yeah.
These phrases are your foundation for navigating public transport.
It's amazing how much freedom and flexibility you gain when you know how to confidently use public transportation.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on the intermediate phrases in this section?
Well, they're all about being resourceful and adaptable.
Okay.
Asking about alternative routes, clarifying destinations, even reporting delays.
Yeah.
It's about being prepared for those unexpected twists and turns that travel often throws our way.
It's about embracing the unknown and turning those potential challenges into opportunities for adventure.
Yeah, those intermediate phrases are so helpful because even, seasoned travelers,
Yeah,
you can find yourself in those unfamiliar situations.
for sure.
I've definitely had to, double check a route or ask for clarification, know.
Absolutely. It's all about being comfortable asking for help when you need it.
Yeah.
Now, we've covered a lot of ground today. Airports, restaurants, shopping, transportation.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one more crucial aspect of travel we need to discuss.
What's that?
Accommodation.
Accommodation. True. That's your home base, right?
It is.
Your sanctuary while you're exploring a new place.
It is. And having the right vocabulary can really make a difference in how comfortable and enjoyable that stay is.
For sure.
This section breaks it down, starts with those basics at the beginner level.
Okay.
Confirming your reservation, requesting your room key, inquiring about those essential amenities.
Yeah.
These phrases really set you up for a smooth check-in experience.
They do. And, those first impressions at a hotel can really shape your whole perception of your stay.
Oh, they can?
Being able to communicate your needs clearly and politely from the get-go, that can make all the difference.
I completely agree. Now, these intermediate phrases are all about taking things a step further, ensuring your comfort throughout your stay, requesting extra towels, reporting any maintenance issues, even asking for a wake-up call.
Yeah, those are the things that can turn a good stay into a great one.
They are. It's about being proactive and addressing any little hiccups that come up.
Right. And remember, most hotels really want to make sure their guests are happy.
Oh, yeah.
So don't hesitate to speak up if something's not right.
Exactly. Speaking of speaking up, these advanced phrases are all about maximizing that accommodation experience.
Okay, what have we got?
Requesting room upgrades, inquiring about concierge services, even providing feedback on your stay.
You're a hotel expert.
I'm trying. And it's about more than just getting the best room or the most luxurious amenities, right?
Right.
It's about being an engaged and informed guest.
Yeah.
Providing that feedback, both positive and constructive, shows that you value the effort that goes into creating that welcoming, hospitable environment.
I like that.
Let's imagine, okay, you've just arrived at your hotel, you want to get settled in, you're curious about the amenities. You say, "Good evening, I have a reservation under your name, and could you tell me a bit about the hotel's amenities? I'm particularly interested in the fitness center and the spa."
Welcome. We have a state-of-the-art fitness center, open 24 hours a day, and our spa offers a variety of treatments and services. We can certainly arrange a tour for you if you'd like.
Look at you making yourself right at home. Now, we've talked about, positive side of accommodation. Let's be real. Sometimes things don't go perfectly smoothly.
True.
So let's talk about how to handle those tricky situations when they arise.
Okay, this is where clear and assertive communication is key.
Yeah. At the beginner level, it's about mastering those essential phrases for reporting a problem, requesting assistance, expressing dissatisfaction.
Right.
It's about making your concerns known in a clear and respectful way.
Yeah. And remember, even if you don't know all the technical terms to describe a problem,
Right.
just being able to explain the situation in simple language can get you a long way.
It can. It can. The intermediate phrases take things a step further, allowing you to describe the problem in more detail, suggest possible solutions, follow up on your request.
Yeah, it's about advocating for yourself.
Yeah.
Making sure your needs are met.
What are your thoughts on the advanced phrases in this section?
Well, these phrases are for those situations where, a more assertive approach might be necessary.
Okay.
Escalating a complaint, requesting to speak to a manager, even understanding your rights as a guest.
Yeah.
These could be really empowering.
It's about knowing your options, being prepared to stand your ground if you need to.
Right.
But remember, even in those challenging situations, maintaining a polite and respectful tone can go such a long way in achieving a positive outcome.
Absolutely.
All right, let's imagine a scenario. You encounter a problem in your room.
Okay.
You go to the front desk, you say, "Excuse me, I'm afraid there's a problem with my room. The air conditioning isn't working, and it's quite uncomfortable."
I apologize for the inconvenience. We'll send someone up right away to take a look. In the meantime, would you like a fan to help cool the room down?
Perfect. You handled that situation with grace and efficiency.
Thank you.
Now, we've covered so much in this deep dive. Airports, hotels, dining, social interactions.
Been the journey.
But there's one more essential ingredient to successful travel that I want to touch on.
What's that?
Cultural awareness.
Cultural awareness. So important.
It is. It's about recognizing and appreciating the diversity of customs, traditions, social norms around the world.
Absolutely.
Approaching every interaction with respect and an open mind.
Yeah.
This section really emphasizes, being mindful, adapting our behavior to the local customs.
Right.
Even at that beginner level, those basic gestures of politeness and respect, like saying please and thank you, can make such a big difference in how you're perceived.
It's true. It's those little acts of courtesy that show you're making an effort
Yeah.
to understand and respect the local culture.
The intermediate phrases delve a little bit deeper, navigating social situations, understanding dining etiquette, even being mindful of religious practices.
Right.
It's about being observant, adapting our behavior to those subtle cues.
I agree.
What are your thoughts on the advanced phrases for cultural awareness?
Well, these really highlight the transformative power of, cultural immersion.
Yeah.
Understanding nonverbal communication, appreciating cultural values, even engaging in those meaningful conversations about local traditions.
Yeah.
It's about going beyond the surface and connecting with the heart of a culture.
It's about moving from being a passive observer to an active participant in that cultural landscape.
Like that.
Let's imagine a scenario. You're visiting a temple. You're unsure about the etiquette.
Okay.
You ask, "Excuse me, is it appropriate for me to take photos inside the temple?"
Photography is not permitted inside the temple as a sign of respect for the sacred space.
Yeah.
However, you are welcome to take photos of the exterior architecture.
See, a simple question can help you avoid an unintentional cultural faux pas,
It can?
and it shows a genuine desire to be respectful.
Yeah.
Well, we've covered a lot in this deep dive into English travel vocabulary.
We have.
From navigating those airports and hotels to handling emergencies, immersing ourselves in new cultures, we've equipped you with the phrases, the strategies to confidently handle a whole range of situations.
I hope so.
So as you embark on your next adventure, remember to embrace that power of communication, be respectful of those different cultures, and most importantly,
Yeah.
have fun.
Have fun. Safe travels.
Safe travels, everyone, and we'd love to hear from you.
Oh, yeah.
What aspect of travel are you most looking forward to using your newfound English skills for?
Let us know.
Let us know.
Okay. So going from intermediate to advanced English,
Ooh, yeah.
it's a big jump.
It is.
It is a big jump, but it's totally doable.
Absolutely.
And in this deep dive, We are here to help you make that jump.
That's right.
We're going to be your guides, and we're going to be sharing some of the best shortcuts and secrets.
Yeah, all those little kind of cheat codes, those hacks.
Cheat codes, yeah.
To unlock
Your English potential.
their full potential, exactly.
Because we've got a treasure trove of tips and tricks
We do.
to help you with all 4 skill areas.
Yeah.
Reading, writing, listening, and speaking.
It's all covered.
All covered. And the best part is you can start using these right away.
Immediately.
This isn't just theory.
Yeah, this is practical.
This is practical stuff.
Stuff you can use day to day.
No need to dust off the grammar textbooks.
Nope.
None of that. We're diving right into the real world.
The real deal. Real world English.
The real deal.
How to speak and write and listen and read like a native speaker.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's kick things off with reading.
Okay.
So, you've been crushing those Agatha Christie novels.
That's great.
You're doing really well with those, but
It's time to level up.
it's time to level up.
We're going to graduate to the
Big leagues.
Economist.
The Economist, exactly.
BBC News articles, maybe even some academic journals.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, there.
Putting, your skills to the test.
Yeah.
Getting you ready for that university application or that job interview.
Okay, so I remember when I first started reading, complex texts, it felt like I was encountering a new language.
Oh, I know that feeling.
It's like every other word I didn't understand.
Right.
And I want to grab the dictionary.
Yes.
And look up everything.
It's so tempting.
It's so tempting, but is that the most effective way to learn?
Well, it can be a bit of a trap
Okay.
because,
Yeah.
constantly stopping to look up every word,
Yeah.
it really kind of breaks your flow.
Yeah.
It can make reading feel like a chore.
It can, yeah. Instead, I really want you to kind of harness the power of context clues.
Okay.
Think of yourself as a detective,
Ooh.
piecing together a mystery.
Yep.
You don't always need every single detail to understand the big picture.
Right.
So let's say you come across a sentence. Like the scientist's groundbreaking research earned her accolades from the international community.
Okay.
Now, you might not know what accolades means right away, but from the context, can you kind of guess?
Yeah. It sounds like she's earned some kind of recognition or praise.
Exactly.
Yeah. Getting awards or something.
Yeah, maybe awards, praise, recognition.
Something like that.
Something positive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, so you've used the clues around the word
The context clue.
to figure out the meaning.
Ooh. I like that detective work. It's fun.
It is, isn't it?
It is.
It's like a puzzle.
And it's a little bit less intimidating
Oh, for sure.
than having to look up every single word.
Yeah, and another strategy you can use to get better at this is to actually look for synonyms or antonyms in the sentence or the surrounding sentences.
Okay.
Because often they can kind of give you these hints about the meaning of that unknown word.
So it's almost like a built-in kind of decoder ring
Exactly, yeah.
for you to figure out the vocabulary.
I like that, yeah.
I like that.
The decoder ring, that's great.
So what about exploring different genres?
Oh, yeah, that's a great point.
Does that help as well?
It does,
Okay.
absolutely, because venturing into different writing styles,
Okay.
like poetry or technical writing,
Yeah.
or even legal documents,
Oh, yeah.
it can expose you to a wider range of vocabulary and different sentence structures.
Right. So it's like adding different spices to your
Yeah.
language palette.
I love that.
Okay, so we've tackled reading.
We have.
But what about writing?
All right, writing.
How do we go from writing, grammatically correct sentences
Yeah.
to crafting really sophisticated
Sophisticated.
and stylish prose?
Oh, that's the goal.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's about moving beyond
Yeah.
simply conveying information.
Yeah.
It's about expressing yourself
Yeah, that's a really good point.
with nuance
With nuance.
and impact. Yes.
So instead of saying, I like traveling,
Right.
you could say, I'm captivated by the allure of exploring diverse cultures and breathtaking landscapes.
Wow. Yeah.
Same thought,
Much more evocative.
but way more impactful.
Right.
It's like you're painting a picture
Exactly.
with your words.
Instead of just stating a fact,
Yeah.
you're actually bringing the reader with you on that journey.
But how do you learn to do that?
That's a great question.
I mean, it feels a bit daunting.
It can be.
Yeah.
It can be, but there are, certain things you can focus on.
Okay.
One is to actually really think about your sentence structure.
Right.
Instead of relying on those simple subject, verb, object sentences.
Yeah.
Experiment
Okay.
with things like compound and complex sentences.
Yeah.
So instead of saying, I went to the store, I could say, although it was raining heavily, I ventured out to the store because I desperately needed coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Is that kind of what you mean?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're adding detail.
You're adding detail and you're creating a more kind of interesting narrative
Right.
just by changing that sentence structure.
Yeah, so it's not just about adding like fancy vocabulary.
No.
It's about structure. It's how
Exactly.
you're
So
crafting it.
the way you put those words together,
Yeah, okay.
the way you phrase things
Real.
to create a certain effect.
So it's about being intentional
Yes.
with your choices.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. So we've talked about reading. We've talked about writing.
Yes.
Now let's talk about listening.
Ooh.
Listing, which can be one of the most challenging
It can be.
aspects of language learning.
Especially at the advanced level.
When you encounter like
Yeah.
different accents,
Accents.
rapid speech,
The speed.
and
Idioms. Yes.
that make no sense.
That make absolutely no sense when you first hear them.
Yeah,
Right.
like a linguistic jungle out there.
It is.
Do you have any tips for navigating that?
Well, I think one of the best things you can do
Okay.
is to really immerse yourself
Okay.
in authentic English content.
Okay, so like not just language learning podcasts,
Not just those,
but like branching out.
listening to podcasts designed for native speakers,
Oh,
even if they're not about topics that you're, super familiar with.
Right. So it's okay if I don't understand every single word.
Exactly.
It's more about
Getting that exposure
getting that exposure.
to the natural flow and the speed of
Yeah.
real English.
Okay, so would you recommend things like, if I'm going to listen to podcasts?
Yes.
What kind of podcasts?
Well, there are so many,
Yeah.
but I think a few good ones to start with
Okay.
are, the English we speak, which is a great one for learning idioms and expressions.
Yeah.
And then TED Talks Daily,
Okay.
which is just a fantastic way to kind of get exposed to different accents, different topics, different styles of speaking.
Okay.
And then, something like Serial,
Yeah.
which is, a really captivating storytelling podcast.
So a variety of different things.
Yeah. And honestly, the best resources are
Right.
the ones that you find
Okay.
genuinely interesting and engaging,
Right, because then
because that's what's going to keep you coming back for more.
that's going to keep you coming back.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've heard about a technique called shadowing.
Oh, yes.
Is it supposed to be helpful for listening?
It's a fantastic technique.
Okay, so can you explain what that is?
So basically, shadowing is you're listening to a native speaker,
Okay.
and then you're trying to repeat
Okay.
what they're saying as closely as possible.
So mimicking their
Mimicking.
pronunciation,
Yeah.
intonation, even their rhythm. So it's kind of like vocal exercises.
Exactly.
But for English.
Yeah, it's like going to the gym
Okay.
for your mouth
Yeah.
and for your ears.
I've never tried that before,
You should give it a try.
but it sounds really effective
It is.
to pronunciation.
Yeah, and you can do it anytime, anywhere.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can do it with podcasts. You can do it with audiobooks.
Yes.
You can even do it with YouTube videos.
Right. So anything you're listening to.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So we've covered reading.
We have
We've covered writing.
listening.
Listening, yes.
Now let's talk about
The big one.
the big one.
The one that everybody gets a little bit nervous about.
Yeah.
Speaking.
Speaking.
Yes.
I think a lot of people,
Yeah.
myself included, we get nervous
It's understandable.
about speaking in a new language,
It is.
especially at an advanced level.
Especially when you're trying to reach that fluency,
Yeah.
where you can express yourself
Yeah.
with nuance.
With nuance. Yeah. And, and effortlessly.
Effortlessly. It
Yeah.
can be nerve-wracking.
It can be, but, the key
Yeah.
is just practice and exposure.
Practice and exposure.
Yeah. The more you practice speaking,
Yeah.
the more confident and comfortable you'll become.
Well, that's easy to say,
I know.
but sometimes it's hard to put into practice,
It is.
especially if you don't have a lot of opportunities
Yeah.
to interact with native speakers.
Yeah.
How do you go about doing that?
Well, there's still lots of ways to practice.
Okay.
Even if you don't have regular access
Yeah.
to native speakers,
Right.
you can join online language exchange communities.
Okay.
You can find conversation partners
Right.
through apps or websites,
Yeah.
or, even record yourself speaking
Oh, okay.
and then listen back to it
So you can hear
so you can hear.
how you sound.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what about those moments where
Yeah.
you're having a conversation and you want to use like a sophisticated word
Yes.
or a phrase,
Yes.
but you're not sure if it sounds natural
Oh, I know that feeling.
or forced?
It's all about finding that balance.
Okay.
You don't want to sound like you're trying too hard
Yeah.
or, using a thesaurus
Yeah.
to impress people.
Yeah.
It's about using advanced vocabulary in
Yeah.
a way that feels natural and authentic to you.
So it's not about showing off,
No.
your vocabulary. It's about using the right words.
It's about using the right words for the right situation.
Right.
And in a way that feels...
To express yourself clearly.
Yes, to express yourself clearly and effectively.
Okay.
So I always think about it like, adding spices to your cooking.
Oh, okay.
You don't want to overwhelm the dish with too many flavors. But, a few well-placed spices can really enhance the taste and make it more interesting.
I like that analogy. Because it's not about cramming in all these big words.
Exactly.
But it's about, thinking thoughtfully.
It's about being strategic.
About how you use advanced vocabulary.
Exactly.
And the more you expose yourself to advanced English, the more it will just...
It will flow naturally.
It will start to flow naturally, yeah.
It's like building up that foundation.
A foundation, exactly.
And allowing your spoken English to blossom.
The blossom, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
From that.
And remember, everyone makes mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
Even native speakers. So don't be afraid to just experiment, try out new words, try out new expressions.
Right.
The most important thing is to communicate effectively and have fun while you're doing it.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like giving yourself permission to play. With the language.
Exactly.
I like that.
And to not be afraid.
Yeah.
To make mistakes.
Yeah, I think we've covered
so much
ground already.
I know.
And I'm already feeling more confident about my own English skills.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear.
Just from, hearing your advice.
Well, remember, it's a journey.
It is.
And it's all about taking those small steps.
Yeah.
Celebrating the progress.
Right.
And never giving up.
Never give up.
No.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
And come back to tackle even more.
More tips, more strategies.
Tips and strategies.
Yes.
In part 2. Of our deep dive.
I'm excited.
Into advanced English.
Me too.
See you soon.
See you soon.
Okay, so we're back.
We are back.
And we're ready to dive even deeper. Into this world of advanced English.
That's right.
And we've covered so much already.
I know, we've covered so much.
From decoding tricky vocabulary to expressing ourselves with more nuance and style. But we're not done yet.
No, not at all.
We still got plenty of tips.
Oh, we've got a lot more.
And strategies to share.
Absolutely.
Especially when it comes to integrating all 4 skill areas.
That's right.
Reading, writing, listening, and speaking. To create a truly holistic approach. To language learning.
That's the key.
So it's not about mastering each skill in isolation.
Right.
It's about weaving them together.
Yeah, weaving them together.
To create this tapestry.
I love that analogy.
Of fluency.
It's like a beautiful tapestry.
But how do you actually do that in practice?
Okay, so let's say you've just read a fascinating article.
Okay.
About the future of artificial intelligence.
Okay.
Instead of just passively consuming that information.
Right.
Why not challenge yourself
to
summarize the key points in writing?
So you're taking what you've read. And then processing it.
Put it into your own words.
In a new way.
So
you're reinforcing your comprehension. But you're also developing your writing skills.
You're synthesizing the information.
Yeah.
And you're expressing it in a new way.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And what about listening?
Okay, listen.
How can we connect that skill to the other ones?
Okay, well, imagine you're listening to a podcast about a controversial topic like climate change. Afterwards, you could have a discussion with a friend or a family member about the main points that were raised in that podcast.
So you're taking those ideas.
Heard out of your head and then actually
putting them into practice.
Talking about them with another person.
Exactly.
Oh, I like that.
So you're practicing your listening comprehension.
Yeah.
But you're also formulating your own opinions.
And then speaking them.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a good way to practice.
It is.
You're listening and you're speaking. Yeah, and it helps you remember the information better, too.
Oh, okay.
When you engage with it on multiple levels.
Okay.
It kind of gets embedded.
Yeah. So it's not just about each skill individually.
Right.
It's finding these ways to connect them.
Yeah.
To create, like, a synergistic learning experience.
Absolutely.
Okay, this is inspiring.
Good.
It feels like, we're giving people a blueprint for, like, becoming masters of English.
That's the goal.
But let's be honest, sometimes even with like the best of intentions, it can be tough to stay motivated.
It can.
And consistent with language learning.
Yeah.
So Any tips?
Yeah, I think setting specific, achievable goals is really important.
So instead of just aiming to improve your English.
Right, because that's very broad.
Yeah, it's broad.
Very vague.
Right.
Set a concrete target.
Okay.
So you could say, okay, this week I'm going to learn 10 new vocabulary words.
Okay, so specific.
Specific.
Measurable.
Measurable, yeah.
I like that.
Or this month, I'm going to write one short essay.
Okay.
Or every day, I'm going to listen to 30 minutes of English podcasts.
So it's like it's broken down.
Yeah, you break it
into these bite-sized pieces.
Bite-sized pieces.
That you can actually manage.
Exactly.
That feel achievable.
Yeah.
So you're not overwhelmed.
You don't feel overwhelmed.
By this huge goal.
Yeah, because that can be really daunting.
Yeah.
And it can actually put people off.
Yeah.
So yeah, break it down into smaller chunks.
Make it get manageable.
And then you can see your progress.
Right. So you're actually seeing the results.
Exactly.
And you feel good about it.
Yeah, and that keeps you motivated.
It's encouraging to keep going.
Exactly.
And what about tracking your progress?
Oh, tracking is a fantastic idea.
Okay.
So you can use a simple notebook or a spreadsheet or even language learning apps to keep track of your goals.
Okay.
Your milestones, your achievements.
I like the idea of keeping like a language learning journal.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Like write down interesting words you find, new phrases.
And, you can even reflect on how your journey is going. Yeah. Celebrate your successes.
Celebrate the little wins.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And remember, even small steps are still progress.
It all adds up.
It all adds up in the end.
It's not about being perfect.
No, not at all. It's about
consistency.
Consistency.
It's about just chipping away at it.
Chipping away at it.
Little by little.
Little by little.
Every day.
Every day.
Even if it's just for 15 minutes.
So you don't need.
No, you don't.
You don't need hours and hours.
You don't need to block out hours and hours.
Okay.
Just 15 minutes a day.
15 minutes a day.
And make a big difference. A big difference. Okay.
It's like exercising a muscle.
Okay.
Regular, consistent workouts will get you better results than one big, intense session.
Right. So it's like a marathon.
Exactly. It's a marathon.
Not a sprint.
It's not a sprint. Yeah.
Right.
So, it's about building those habits, making it sustainable.
Yeah.
And remember, you've got so many tools and resources available to help you.
Okay.
Language learning apps, online dictionaries.
Yeah.
Grammar checkers.
Right. There's a lot out there.
There is.
We don't have to do it alone.
No. And the best part is, you've got this amazing community. Of language learners out there.
Yeah. So many people are learning English.
It's one of the most, spoken languages in the world.
So we're not alone.
No.
And it makes it more fun.
More fun, more enjoyable.
When you're doing it with others.
Absolutely. And more rewarding.
This is so positive. It's like you're giving us a roadmap.
Yeah.
For success.
A roadmap for success.
Not just with English.
No.
But like in life.
In life, exactly.
About that consistency.
Consistency.
It's about, celebrating the small wins.
Yeah, celebrating.
It's remembering that it's a journey.
It's all about the journey. And, the more you embrace that, the more rewarding it will become.
And English is just this...
It's a gateway.
Gateway to so many other things.
To so many other things.
Yeah, it's about expanding your horizons.
Expanding your horizons.
Connecting with new cultures and new people.
Absolutely.
And unlocking
your potential.
Yeah.
As a global citizen.
It makes me realize it's not just like...
It's not just a set of skills.
A set of skills, yeah.
It's so much more than that.
It's a journey.
It's a journey, yeah.
Of self-discovery.
Of self-discovery.
Yeah, I like that.
It's about growth.
Okay, so we've covered so much.
We have.
In just these two parts.
I know, it's amazing.
But we have one more part to go.
One more to go.
So stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
We've got some exciting final thoughts.
Final thoughts, yes.
And a thought-provoking question.
A thought-provoking question.
To leave you with. So stick around.
Stick around.
For the grand finale. All right, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into advanced English fluency. And I have to say, I'm feeling super energized after all the amazing tips and insights we've covered.
I know, me too.
But before we wrap things up, I'm curious.
Okay.
What are some of the biggest kind of breakthroughs or aha moments you've had in your own language learning journey?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I think for me, one of the biggest kind of light bulb moments was realizing that language learning, it's not just about memorizing rules and vocabulary.
Oh, yeah.
It's about developing this deeper understanding of how language works as a system of communication.
So it's like
cracking a code.
cracking a code, exactly.
Yeah, like understanding the underlying principles.
The structure, the patterns.
Yeah, and then it makes it easier to
You can kind of
navigate those nuances.
all the little twists and turns of English.
Exactly. You start to see the connections between different parts of the language.
It makes it less intimidating.
It does. It really does.
Yeah.
And, another kind of breakthrough for me was actually embracing the idea of making mistakes
Okay.
as part of the process.
Oh, yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up
Right.
in that fear of making a mistake.
Especially when you're like
When you're speaking.
You're like,
Yeah.
I don't want to mess this up.
It's just special. Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to mess this up.
But the truth is,
Yeah.
mistakes are inevitable.
Yeah. You get to make a.
You are.
Yeah.
And you know what?
Yeah.
They're actually valuable learning opportunities. Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Instead of seeing them as failures.
like beating yourself up.
Exactly.
It's more about
It's like, oh, this is a chance for me to learn.
Yeah.
And grow.
Yeah, I think a lot of language learners, myself included, we tend to be perfectionists.
Yeah, we want to get it right.
We want to get it right every time.
Every single time.
Yeah.
But you know what?
What?
It's okay to let go
Okay.
of that need for perfection.
All right, give myself permission.
Give yourself permission,
To not be perfect.
to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Because that's how you learn.
Yeah, okay, so embrace the messiness
Embrace the messiness, yeah.
of the learning process.
Because that's where the magic happens.
Okay, I like that. And speaking of,
Yeah.
not being afraid to experiment,
Yeah.
I think it's so important to find ways to make
To make it fun.
language learning fun and engaging.
Fun and engaging, yeah.
So do you have any tips for I think one of my favorite ways is to connect it to your other interests and passions.
Oh.
So for example, if you're a movie buff,
Yeah.
why not watch
Okay.
English language films
Yeah.
with subtitles?
Okay.
Or if you love music,
Okay.
try listening to English language songs
Yeah.
and read the lyrics.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's about kind of finding those things that you already enjoy.
Yeah. So you're not
Yeah, and then you're kind of
forcing it.
you're sneaking in the language learning
Sneaking it in. Yeah.
without it feeling like a chore.
It's more natural.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
more organic.
I like that.
And I think it's also important to,
Yeah.
celebrate your progress.
Celebrate those little wins.
Celebrate those little wins.
Yeah.
No matter how small.
Even if it's just like, I learned a
Yes.
new word today.
Yeah, or I understood a whole sentence in a podcast.
And I didn't have to look it up.
yeah,
And
exactly.
that's a win.
It's a win.
Yeah. And I think it's important to remember that
Yeah.
language learning,
It's a journey.
it's a journey,
It is
not a destination.
a destination, yeah.
There's always going to be
Right.
more to learn, more to explore.
There's always another level
There is.
to reach.
And, the beauty of it is the journey itself is so rich
Yeah.
and so filled with discoveries.
Discoveries. Yeah.
So embrace those challenges.
Okay.
Savor the victories
I like that.
and never stop exploring.
Keep going.
Keep going, yeah.
All right. So it feels like we've come full circle
We have
in this deep dive.
full circle from
From the practical.
the practical to the mindset.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it's all about.
And I hope our listener is feeling
Yeah.
empowered and inspired
Inspired and ready
to continue their journey
to keep going.
with English.
But before we say goodbye,
Yes.
I want to leave you with a thought-provoking question.
Oh, I like these.
Okay.
Okay.
So imagine you've reached that
Certainly
advanced level of English fluency.
They're there.
What doors do you see opening?
What opportunities?
Yeah. What opportunities and possibilities
That's a good one.
do you envision for yourself?
Yeah, think about that.
We would love to hear
We would.
your aspirations
Yeah.
and your
And
dreams.
as you continue
Yeah.
on your journey, remember,
Yeah,
we are here to cheer you on
we are.
every step of the way.
So keep practicing, keep exploring,
Yes.
keep believing in your potential.
You've got this.
Until next time,
Until next time.
happy learning.
Happy learning.